What you got for me?
Citizens concerned.
Since it was emergency operations, I wasn't sure if I should or. Yeah, I can. Oh, beyond that.
And everybody's got a copy of it.
Okay, okay. Not a problem.
And so,
So I'm thinking one more
Who's it up to?
and so if we use
That's a key question there, I believe.
I tried to find that guy and we looked up on, and everything they paid was back in.
Tired of this COVID, all this propaganda,
Yeah.
too much,
Go back and see.
way over the top. Way over the top.
For us, it's important. So, yeah, we let them know, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think he goes in through that street that
I got two in the truck. In fact, I purchased a couple of establishments in San Antonio where they won't let you in the door. It's all mine.
So.
Not that I'm aware of. We're good. And, no, we'll just work you over next week.
I remember that.
Okay, thanks for calling. No
It's
problem.
signed and sealed by the architect.
John, you gotta make sure they're 6 feet.
So then, or do you just want to talk?
No. I thought we down there.
They won't see.
Well, it's wherever, the 6 feet apart.
On live stream, so. You can sit over there.
Until Darren gets here.
Well, and we're not seeing.
No,
But yeah, you can sit.
right here.
Don't trip over my wires, that's all I ask. Don't you fall down. Live stream is on, by the way. We are live. So it works.
You go stick that thing in the picture.
It was brutal like that. It was good, it was bad, it wasn't bad.
Chris is Chris.
Yeah.
Drawing all that desert air out of Mexico.
What did you know this morning? It rained a little shower on me after ranch. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we got storms firing up over Medina Lake right now.
Really?
Boy, we had a storm centered over
Huh?
Main Lake.
Thunderstorms, yeah. There's a cold front. We're in a dry line starting with a cold front coming through.
Oh, boy.
We need to get our password.
That ain't a very big storm. Oh, it petered out already. It's raining itself out.
Yeah, it was, they had high water in Jacksonville earlier this afternoon, but it's apparently gone. Good evening,
Hey,
sir.
Todd,
Hey, Darren.
you know what the password is for the Wi-Fi in here?
What's that?
Your meeting stuff.
Oh, I don't have that. Is that Deborah's office? Okay, thank you.
Well, at least it's raining in the right place. It's raining in Upper Lake a little bit.
Does it look like it's a decent storm?
Nah, little bitty. Small cell. I'm surprised we didn't have anything though with this tropical depression on our east side. Wow, man. I couldn't believe it was raining in the shower this morning at the ranch. I mean, it didn't even settle the dust. There was moisture coming out of the sky. I thought, you gotta be
I was
kidding me.
driving at 10 o'clock and I had to turn my windshield wiper on, so.
That's crazy. That's what I said.
Yeah, they said we had a chance of on and off showers today with the supposed cold front coming through.
They said that front's supposed to hit this tropical depression or whatever they're calling it right now.
Oh, Cristobal?
Supposed
Yeah.
to make a mess for the Midwest. High winds and a lot of rain.
Yeah, my sister lives in Tennessee.
They
And
said Chicago was supposed to be the hardest hit.
yeah, they're gonna flood again, yeah. Yep. Just one thing they don't need right now.
The clock is correct, I don't have my phone. 42.
Is Chris is in town?
Yes, sir.
What's he doing
4:50.
at 6:30 Saturday morning?
He works in Lytle.
6:30, I said.
Yeah, I shut
He has to, Helen's already asked Joe and Christopher, and Joe will be there. Christopher has to be out in Lytle by 7:30.
Okay, well, he has a good excuse then.
Yeah.
7:30, you can finish it up by 7. What?
And take a shower in order to get back out to the store.
Take a shower.
Yes. Trust me. Yeah.
I got home at 7.
You got what?
You wanted me to take a shower before I came.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Christopher's been doing over 40 hours a week with the True Value stores because they have him working here
Hey,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then he works the weekends out at Lytle, helping them out.
Paul, if you showed up and helped shovel mulch in the park with Derek, if I knew you and Derek and I, they would have to actually put notice of that in the newspaper.
Oh, Joe will be out there with you.
Is Joe gonna be there? Oh, good, okay. I hadn't heard him. I know it's only Pat and Meg Connors and Mary and I.
As long as we don't stand in a circle and talk.
Yeah, Helen sent us an email this morning, and Joe replied to her, and she said, oh, good, it'd be you, and then named you and everybody else.
Good. I figure you only take an hour.
Yeah, that's fine. I just kick him out of bed before I hit the commissary. That's all I got to do.
Do what?
I just got to kick him out of bed before I go to the base commissary.
Big concert?
Base commissary?
Oh, big commissary.
I got to restock the food with the house with food.
Yeah, my uncle is 92 years old, lives up in Oklahoma City, and he was telling me today that once every couple months he has to go to the base commissary.
Yeah, when Christopher's home, the base commissary knows me every week.
Yeah. Stock up.
Extra supplies.
5 jugs of milk.
God.
God almighty.
He is a cheesehead. He supports the dairy farmer relatives of ours in Wisconsin.
Do you freeze the milk?
Huh?
Do you freeze the milk? Oh, really?
It's not around long enough to freeze.
No, it's not. It's not.
Well,
He's a cheesehead, so he,
He likes the Packers.
no. We're not into football. The only reason he played football in high school was for the workout.
There you go.
He will. That way. In the building.
Bells.
So we're ready? Do you have
We
5
don't have a
o'clock?
city secretary. yet.
Darren.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. And Deborah.
My puppy,
Mm-hmm.
he just turned 6 months old. He's 80 pounds. He's bigger than my two girls.
Eat more than your son. Holy
He's
smokes.
taller than the
I'm
two
glad you
girls.
got him out.
they're huge.
Well,
I'd never seen them until I saw your husband walking.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, they're the real thing.
It's my bad.
huge.
no worries.
You like my library?
You're what?
My library? The library.
It's not books.
Can't understand anybody. I was at the dentist this morning, I was wearing a mask, and I kept asking, you have to repeat yourself.
Hey, step back out.
Put a temporary.
Oh, thank you.
Temporary, put it on, and I didn't make the day with it. I already fell off, gotta go back in the morning. You can make the change of behavior. I was gentle on it too. Yeah, no, I was. I think they just didn't mix the cement right or something.
I feel good.
I think Darren forgot his agenda.
Well, we officially canceled the Alsatian Festival of Texas this year. It will be held on April 24th of 2021.
I'm gonna use the new carpet one time.
All good. Live stream is already going, so.
So we're good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's start our special call meeting because it's early, correct?
Correct.
So we called it, it's a special call meeting because it's not at the documented 7 o'clock, or what, 6 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am. Six.
That's why it's a special call meeting. So we're meeting at 5 o'clock. Let the record show that the meeting began at 5:04. And all members, all district representatives are present. The city administrator is not here on a medical emergency.
Correct.
And that's the only one we need to account for.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be by Reverend Deerdorf. Is he
No
here?
reverend there.
I haven't seen it. I mean, he's supposed to be here.
Mr. Terry, would you like to do the honors?
So sorry.
That'd be-
No, I'm good at
That's
this.
fine.
Thank you.
Please pray with me. Dear Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the blessings you bring us, this group and this community. We thank you, Lord, for preserving us and keeping us as well as we can be. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to meet today to deal with the city's business, and we pray that you would give us inspiration and reasonability. Please be with us, Lord, as we proceed, and preserve all of us, keep us safe and healthy tonight as we return home. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you. All right, we're going to citizens' comments, and I do know that we have two that have been sent in, and I'm not real sure who would like to read them. Are we going to read both of them? Just one
The only one I know of.
that has a
is-
name on it. Yeah, the other one doesn't.
Okay, I don't know the
Okay.
one, so, and I think Ms. Martinez is her
Yeah.
district.
Councilwoman Martinez.
Yeah. This comment is from Joe Martinez, 113 River Trail. A few weeks ago, according to the emergency information that runs across the bottom of the TVs and our phones going off, Castroville was under a tornado warning. According to standard procedures, a tornado warning means take shelter immediately. City sirens were not activated to warn citizens who may have lost power or do not have cell phones that we were under a tornado warning. I sent Mr. Lutz an email and the following day questioning why the sirens were not activated. I also stated that I can't remember the last time I heard the sirens tested. I believe it is used to be monthly on Saturdays at noon. His reply was, "Good evening. Castroville was not under a warning. The radar indicated rotation was started 8 miles northeast of Hondo and moved north of Rio Medina. I was on the phone with the National Weather Service during the event. The sirens are silently tested on a weekly basis. Best regards, Keith Lutz." My questions are, if we were not under a tornado warning, why did the TV and cell phones say we were? Has the people of Castroville ever been told or reminded periodically that the sirens are silently tested every week? Thank you.
This is an anomaly because we have a response to the comment already. So can we get Chief maybe to comment on the comment? Because he is, in fact, no, we'll bring it up.
Well, I'm thinking, well, you can't take action, of course, during the citizens' comments. You can respond, but, you know, if it's something that needs to take action, you can put it on a future agenda.
Right. And I know you can respond prior, and then it wouldn't be brought as a comment, actually, but we need more clarification as a comment. But we're not doing action because we can't.
Correct.
So
That would
could
be
we
something
have
for a future, that would be a future agenda item if it's something that you need to put on the agenda.
Could we have Chief further clarify? Because he was out there.
He could respond. I'm thinking as I'm talking, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it. But he could share some information.
Tell Mr. Joe that I was on the phone with Keith Lutz the whole time this storm was going on. Keith is monitoring all the federal and state systems, and he's in contact with the people who are in contact with NOAA, so he knows exactly what's going on in our county. I don't know why the news said Castroville was under tornado warning. We weren't. Typically, they say it's the county of Medina is under a tornado warning. That tornado, the funnel cloud was closer to Hondo, way closer than it was to Castroville. So I don't know why they, of course, he heard it on the news, so it's got to be true, right?
Well, no, our cell phones went off too.
Yeah. I don't know what that was either. I don't know
They're
what
always
your,
right.
I
what your
mean,
cell phones were hearing. Is that coming from San Antonio?
no, we've always had Castroville numbers. And our cell phones went off, all three of ours.
I don't know how to explain that one. All I know is the second that funnel cloud formed, I received a phone call. He told me exactly where it was and where it was heading, which
Right.
was the opposite direction of us.
Right.
So we were never under any kind of threat of tornado at that time.
Okay. What about the
As far as
silent
setting
testing?
the alarms off, unless a tornado is imminent, they're not going to set those off. And Keith Lutz has the power and the
Right.
authority to set off all the alarms in the county of Medina. He's
Right.
the first line response. If I'm standing on Paris Street and I see a funnel cloud forming, I can run into PD and also activate them. The mayor has a radio that allows her to activate the ones here in Castroville only. But Keith Lutz is the first line. He's the
Okay.
one that activates them.
Okay. What about the silent testing?
Well, that one we'll have to answer.
Well, he does that once a month, and it's Tuesdays. Keith Lutz does. That's also handled by the county.
Okay.
And we don't hear them. They used to test them on
Yes.
Saturdays.
And
And
we
that's
hear
when
the
Mayor
yeah.
Lee was here, and that's
Right.
before we had an emergency manager coordinator like Keith Lutz.
Right.
So instead of getting everybody all upset and worried about, half the people like to hear it, the other half don't. So that's kind of what he's contending with there. If it's really something the city wants to hear on Saturdays, we can do that.
Well, just coming from Tornado Alley, where we were stationed before
Well, I think
here.
Highway 90 is Tornado Alley
Well-
since I've been here. It seems.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, how can they guarantee a silent test that stuff works?
Well, I believe I spent $2,400 last year on replacing parts on our sirens, and they figured out they were bad doing the silent test, so
Yeah.
they are doing them. I mean, that's his job.
Yeah, maybe we want to get that out for citizens to know that they're
Well,
silent.
that'll have to be an agenda item.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know
just
how much-
something to put out there, because we used to loud test them, and now we don't.
Well, it's been, you weren't here, but we did discuss it at a council meeting prior. But I'll put it on the agenda.
Okay.
All
You
right.
have any more questions, ma'am?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was the hubby.
All right. No, do I have any more citizens' comments? Yes, sir.
Arnie DeLacy, 109 River Bluff here in Castroville. Two things for being here. Over the last 4 years, the CADC has sponsored the Poppy Poster Contest. We always give the city a framed, signed copy of the winning poster, and I would like to present it, whether you, Mayor, or anybody else that wants to come do it. But
I would love to.
Here it is.
I love them.
and
Beautiful.
then I have one other thing unrelated to this. But
This is 2018. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
remember it. We also have this one that I really like. This is
Yeah.
2019. So now we have 2020.
Very nice.
this is
Beautiful.
this year's.
They're
And the
nice.
artist that,
The artist is Lindsay Wheeler, lady that lives just out the Quee Road a little bit from the hotel.
Beautiful.
But anyway,
So very much. It's beautiful.
Good, this for the press. One,
is it a beat?
2, 3. Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. The other thing is, many of you that have been here at some of the other meetings regarding the U.S. Census, Ben Garza, who is a person that kind of covers this region, not just Medina County, can't be here today for some health reasons, but he asked me to make a couple of real short comments. The last information that he's received, Medina County is somewhere real close to 50% of response to the census.
60.5.
And, okay,
I just got it.
and Castroville is up in the 60% level, where some of the towns are only 8.5% and 9%. And what the impact is, if somebody wants to go to work and help do any of this and try and get people moving, you get paid $18 an hour, you have to be 18 and older, you get 58 cents a mile for travel, and you may get up to $22 an hour, depending on what they may have you do go in remote areas. But from the latest numbers that we could come up with through ACOG and others, for Castroville as a town, every person that is not counted costs roughly somewhere between $2,100 and $2,500 a year per person for the next 10 years of anything that may be school-related, county-related, city-related, nonprofits, et cetera, community development block grants, development issues, and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, talk to people trying to get them go out and do something to either work to get the people to do the census or get people to just complete the census. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. We're the highest. We're better than Honda and Italia, all. And this is the online census that people could complete. It's 60.5%.
Some people
We've
don't
had
want to
that
be
turnout.
found. Some people don't want to be found there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more citizen comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Catherine Holloway. I live at 905 Lafayette. I'm a registered nurse. I work here for Alamo Hospice. I have a noise problem, and I'm here today to petition you to relook at the ordinance. It's a beautifully written ordinance. It's very broad. The problem with it is that it is so broad, it's difficult to enforce. We have an amazing PD. They've been more than helpful. They come out every call we make. Filed a formal complaint with them, and then before Mr. Dyer left, filed a formal complaint with the city. It'll be a year in August. So what I wanted to share is basically this has been my life for the last 2 years with my neighbor and the noise. And
Oh, God. That's all right.
so outside of calling a realtor and leaving the city of Castroville, I am desperately petitioning y'all to relook this and give Chief Jackson and his team something that they can ticket for. Right now, there is no incentive to make my neighbor a good citizen because the way it reads, any time of day you're bothered, call. If it's a car with a subwoofer, call. If it's a noisy car, call. If it's amplified music, call. If it's a loud party, call. If it's after 11 on the weekdays, call. If it's after 12 o'clock on the weekend, call. None of that is enforceable. We've called all of those contingencies. None of those times have been fined. The meter reading is a bone of contention too because the way the noise comes into our property cannot be read from what is designated to legally be where it can be captured from. That any cop driving in the front of my house, the side of my house, and around the corner to the neighbor can hear it. It just can't be nailed down into that decibel and ticketed. I have my 80-year-old mother lives with me. She'd like to say a few words too. This has been very triggering for me, working crazy hours at a crazy job, not knowing if I'm going to come home to peace and quiet. When is the party going to start? I've had food thrown in my yard. I had an outhouse pushed against my fence, broken bottles in my yard. Those have nothing to do with the noise ordinance, but collectively it's just made the last 2 years of my life hell. And I need y'all to help with that or I'm gonna have to leave town. So again, hats off to PD. They've been amazing. They've come out, Kate, we know what's going on. We're sorry, our hands are tied, but they still make the calls. And just to give you a short example, out of 22 calls in a month that we could have made, we were discriminate in only making 9. And the chief can back up our calls and what they were for and who came out and what they saw and what's happened. And like I said, I'm just kind of at wit's end now. This has been going on for almost 2 years, so I'm just kind of standing here today begging for your help. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically, Catherine has documented everything and extremely well. And even though I have a hearing deficit and I'm 80 years old, it's very disturbing. It wakes me up. I have a problem sleeping anyway. This ordinance only works for people who want to be noisy. The police department has been extremely kind and helpful, but they're limited in what they can enforce because of the ordinance. Until the ordinance changes, you can either tolerate the noise or move on. And as a resident of Castroville, I feel we do have a right to some peace and quiet.
And even reading the EPA guidelines, which addresses mental anguish caused by loud sounds, I mean, you can only take so much of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We're good? Okay, let's look at the consent agenda, and we have the minutes for May 12th, 2020, which was another special call meeting purely because of the time. I'd ask you to look at what council asked Waste Management to bring back, which we have on the agenda now, and what council asked about reopening city facilities, because that's what we've got here too. So, do I have a motion about the consent agenda? Any discussion first? I'm sorry.
I just got one change.
Yes, ma'am.
On the last page, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line down. Can you change Mr. to a Ms., please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Where's that?
Last page, fifth line down.
I was on a roll for a little bit. Sorry.
Not a problem.
All
I
right.
got it right the other 3 places.
Do I have any more discussion? If not, do I have a motion?
I so moved to approve the minutes, the
Yeah,
consent
second.
agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Ferry seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Consent agenda passes. We're going into nominate an appointment of Mayor Pro Tem. So,
I haven't asked him, but I would nominate Darren Schroeder.
all right, we already have it needs to be a motion. Doesn't it?
Yes, once you,
You said made it.
Once you close the
nomination.
nominee- nominations.
Was it a motion?
Well, no, I nominate, and then the motion
All right,
would be
so-
to elect. So
right, if anybody else has a nominee.
he can reject the
Oh, you
nomination.
could, yes.
All right, any discussion? Kind of
No.
difficult to discuss, isn't it?
No.
All right, motion.
I move that we elect Darren Schroeder.
All in favor?
You have to have a second?
Yes.
You got a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
Well, very quickly, so you can say no.
We need to spend a
Did I get voluntold again?
to what we're going to do. All right. The next one is discussion and appropriate action on an ordinance awarding a franchise contract within the city of Castroville to Waste Management of Texas for the collection and disposal of waste. And I'd like to reread from the council minutes what council asked Chris to do, Mr. Cox. A motion was made by Councilman Carey and seconded by King to table the item to allow Mr. Cox to bring back an option of a 6 cubic yards brush pickup module. And it carried by all present, so we are going to get that response.
Okay, Mayor, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Chris Cox for the record. We had a few meetings with your staff, Interim City Administrator Leroy Vidales, Mr. King, and a few of your council members. We talked on the phone, and we, Waste Management, are bringing back the exact same proposal to you with the sole change of 6 cubic yards instead of 4 cubic yards, and it'll be at the exact same rate that we had proposed, $21. So that is our proposal in front of you today.
I'd just like to ask a question before I open to council. I've always advocated a chipper, and everybody says it's too expensive. But if we look at the volume of these cubic whatever yards, if we were chipped, we'd get a lot more stuff in there, wouldn't we?
Well, when you chip it, then it's going to be a large pile of chipping material on the curb, so it's going to be hard for us to, well, you've seen it at your house with leaves. With that would come in handy with what is on your end, actually, with John and Devin when they're collecting material that's either fallen on the street or any residents that had excessive piles that exceed our allotment that we provide the city. John and his staff had actually been going out and collecting those piles on off cycles when we're not here. where those piles go, John has a 20 to 30 cubic yard roll-off that we are planning to give you all free of charge at the Public Works yard moving forward with this proposed agreement. If you chip that material, obviously there's less surface area. John can fit much more in there, and he can get the bang for his buck with that. So that's something if y'all like to do, I'm sure John would
That
benefit
could
from.
be something we'll bring up in the budget
Yes.
discussions. But how much do you get in that roll-off? A tree?
More than that.
Depends on how small you cut it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've asked residents to do, is cut their trees
Just
into smaller,
manageable.
and that's not happening either, I don't think.
No, but we're still working at it. We're working through the city right now. We're going to be here as long as it takes to get it done. I know you'll have a lot out there because of this last storm, and so we're doing both brush and bulk right now. We're just shy of completing day 2. Our trucks actually had to leave the area for DOT hours, but we're going to be back tomorrow. So we're moving through steadily, but there's a lot out there. So actually what I'm going to reach out to John about is bringing some roll-offs into the area that might be able to help us finish quicker. We can maybe stage them somewhere and save our trucks from having to drive back and forth from the landfill. We can go pick up an empty dump roll-off right there and keep moving quicker.
Okay, very good. So what Mr. Cox came back with was the request by council to bring back an option of 6 cubic yards brush pickup, and you've done that.
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, brush and waste.
Brush and bulk combined, commingled.
All right, I'll open the discussion. Anyone? We'll start with 5.
I actually did talk to you. Thank you for the time.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate that. Initially, I was saying, I think that
Thank you.
Initially, I was thinking that we had asked for multiple different options. We talked through those. I guess the two sides of this is, one, I live on a river lot. We have lots of trees, and so I represent one side of the coin, literally the coin. And then there are other people that have nearly no trees, and they represent the other side of the coin. So what I didn't want to do is overburden people that don't utilize it as much as myself and some other folks do. And so I wanted to see what different options were. I'd asked him a bunch of different questions about can you itemize it, and can you give people options for it? And I think it was a very valid answer, and that is basically they don't do this for big cities, and we're a pretty small city, and so it costs them more to be able to manage that than it's really worth. I really appreciate the fact that you came back with the 6 yards, because I think that's right in the middle. Personally, if I have more that comes down during that time that I need, then I can support, then I'll put it out for the next month.
Yes, sir.
You did also provide the other option, and this is something, and I talked to a number of citizens that had the same kind of concerns, and some brought them to me, some I brought it to, and their concerns were, what happens after a storm? And I think that's something that we look at as a city. If we have a big storm that comes through, we ask for a special pickup, pay a special rate, whatever that works out, but that is on an ad hoc basis. I don't think it happens often enough that it's truly an issue. Sometimes if I'm doing major lot clearing, I have more than the allotted, and it's just substantially more. They have options for the roll-off. I can bring that out. And so I think they provided a lot of options for that. When it comes to the 2 different types of bins, one of the concerns that I heard was that, normally I put out my trash bin and then I put several bags around it. And I said, I respect that, but I think that that's part of the problem, is that you're paying for one bin. They're picking up the additional bags at their cost. You're not paying for that. So that's basically taking their services. So I support the speed and the efficiency that you can achieve using the roll-up ones. And I think that if we find with 2 of the similar size bins, I think that we can, even after large parties or whatever, holidays, a lot of that can go into the recycling. So you split it between the recycling. It just makes us more responsible about actually recycling.
Sure.
And then the other question was about specifically holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We have other parties. We have other things that go on, Christmas or birthday parties, that kind of thing. And what he suggested is put it out with a bulk pickup. We've got it once a month. It goes along with a brush. And so if you just need to save that up, put it in bags and put it with a bulk pickup. I think that they've addressed a lot of the concerns, and I think that it gives us a lot of flexibility. I think it's more than fair. So I thank you for putting that together.
Councilman, one thing I will say, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, there's also the option in this agreement for if a resident wants an additional cart, they can petition that from the city and pay an additional fee for that. So there is definitely options for people to not have it blown throughout the neighborhood. It will be contained in a cart, so it's there and available.
And I think that we just need to be diligent. I think you had mentioned something else about, one of the questions that I had is if you put out too much, then how do you deal with that? And you said that you had tags that you could put on there to explain to residents.
Yes, sir. So, part of our job when we're working with you guys through the new agreement, we'll be bringing something like this to every resident. It's a trifold that we've created for cities. That will actually be affixed in a plastic bag and affixed to the new cart that's going to be delivered. So you're going to have a new summarized trifold of the new service here. Additionally, on top of that, we'll be having some cart hangers that we can do. So we're going to give everyone a month or two leeway in trying to work with them on cart placement, how to have the cart properly. And when it comes to bulk, we'll have this cart hanger or bulk pile tag that we can put on or on the door of the home. It'll literally have a check of something. For instance, cart was underneath a low-hanging wire, cart was next to a parked vehicle, bulk pile had paint cans in there. We can check that off, and it's an education piece for the resident and an enforcement piece that we can actually share with City Hall. If they get a call, they're already aware of the issue that was at that home. So it's just education. No one's doing anything bad. It's just maybe someone is not aware, so it's on us to be your partner to help you educate the residents on that.
Okay, you brought up, I'll wait.
I'd just like to mention something. We can't act on anything other than what council has asked him to come back with, which is the cubic measure. And I offered that we could, I guess, make a motion that further updates will be as needed or something. I don't know how that would work. That's up to you guys. But I just want to remind you, we're acting just on the cubic. He was asked to come back with the size, which he's agreed to do. Giving us more information, because I didn't know that, is even better.
The agenda item says discussion
for the
of
contract.
awarding a franchise contract.
Yeah.
It's the whole
No, I have
contract.
two of them. I have this one where you asked him to come back. Motion was made by Councilmember Carey and King to allow Mr. Cox to bring back an option of a 6 cubic yards brush pickup module.
That's not on my agenda.
Yeah, I've got it May 12th.
That was the previous.
That was the
Yeah, but
previous meeting.
we didn't give him that option yet. This has gotten all
Well, no,
messed up.
Mayor, I think what they're saying is that was in the minutes, but today, but I don't think there's a big issue. I think it's okay.
Yes.
So
and he did
if we just finish
come
our
back.
comments, then we can vote.
Yeah,
Because it's on the complete contract.
Yeah.
because I don't want us to get off,
Yeah.
this has been going on a year and a half.
Right.
And who, I don't know, who of city council was involved in the meeting? I know Mr. Vidalis isn't here.
It was me.
You were, and I understand Mr. Carey.
We spoke separately.
Okay.
I wasn't in any meeting.
Okay. All right, so let's go to District 4.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I've never paid too much attention to some of the specifications that you have on brush, mainly because I don't leave no brush for you. My wife will not allow me to leave any brush on the yard, period, so I have to haul it to the ranch. I guess I'm fortunate that I have a place to go with it. But your truck was in the neighborhood this week, and I drove by, and then about, I don't know, I would have said an hour later, they were still at the same spot, and it appeared they were scratching their heads, and I got to looking at the brush that was laying there, and I thought, man, I guess it's too long. It looked like it was quite longer than you're wanting them to cut it up, so I just assumed that maybe that was the issue. And so how does that protocol go when they pull up to a pile and there's too much or it's not cut the right length?
Yes, sir.
Do you go straight to John with it, or how does it work?
And we talked about that last week, especially since we had this storm, recent storm, where they will not pick those up because they're too large. They'll come back in and come back around.
With one of those,
Right.
Grapplers.
with the grapple?
Yes, sir. So we can pretty much pick up anything with the grappler, I mean, within reason.
Yeah.
But when in situations like that, I'll communicate with Patricia, who's taking the majority of your customer calls, John, and if she speaks to the resident, or I'll ask for help to communicate with the resident, have them cut it up, maybe if it's a large stump, the size of this room, we'll have them cut it up. That way we can manageably, lift it into the thing, and it's not hanging outside our 40-yard rolling down the highway.
So the guys in the truck are gonna call somebody and
They'll notify me
You?
or our route manager, Mr. Sam
then you're
Duran.
gonna end up talking to John about it
Yes, sir.
and try to resolve it with the homeowner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No further questions, thank you.
Okay, District 3.
That's me.
That's
I met, with Chris and Leroy, and they were very nice to come back and give us everything that they presented last time. They would not charge us for the extra, going from 4 to 6. And again, as we talked about, if someone does have a large family and they can't fit it all in the one cart, a 96 gallon, then it's only $5 extra a month for that individual household. But I think also if we all, as more and more people get used to recycling, we completely really increase the amount of recycling that we can give. And with just a little bit of effort, you really can use everything you have through either the recycling or the regular dumpster. So I think, it's all in all, it's a very fair contract. So I'm in favor of the way it's written.
Good.
That's it.
Okay. And now District.
Thank you for your phone call this morning. And I apologize because there were a number of years where I was unaware of the volume
It's okay.
requirements on brush, and there were times when I had brush lined up across the yard. So I did notice today that there was a crew out hand loading
Yes,
brush.
sir.
I hadn't seen anybody but the grappler come out before. And I did have some brush on my curb this morning, and it probably was more suited for the grappler than it was for the handling. So my apologies.
No, no.
Crew, they probably worked their butts off. I have one question regarding roll-offs.
Sure.
In the contract, there's an indication, and our city has been kind of enforcing, kind of not enforcing contractors to use your services as opposed to anyone else's services within the city limits. Is that the intent of the contract?
Yes, sir. And I can give you some background on that if you'd like. Okay. So when we put these proposals in front of our municipal partners and cities like yourself, there's various factors that come into why we're able to offer the rates we are. There's some give and take when it comes with the franchise agreements. You're able to have certain pricing held at a certain rate, and it's factored in here and it's fixed, right? When you have a hauler of sorts, you do not know what insurance they're carrying. You do not know what their rates are. It's not fixed. Someone can really lowball something, but how do you know if they're operating safely? Are they haulers that have DOT licenses, DOT drivers? There's various factors on there. So what you get when you come with us is not only do you get all that, you get a franchise fee and you get to add on any administrative costs with that. You do not see any revenue from a separate hauler like that. So that's how we're able to work the prices we are when it comes in. It's an all-inclusive of that nature.
I find it difficult to, as a governmental body, tell a private individual who they can and cannot do business with.
I understand that.
And if we're looking at a commercial construction contractor who has already gone through our examination process and he's submitted his credentials and obviously carries whatever insurance he needs to have for his construction site, I'm feeling that that's a little bit onerous on our part to tell someone that they can't use an independent.
Sure. I understand that. I mean, that's the current operating agreement we have right now. It's a proposal we've had. It's not something, unfortunately, hasn't been something that's been enforced. It's been a hit in our pocket, and it's quite honestly been a hit in y'all's pocket as well. Your staff would speak to that. That's revenue dollars that the city's losing out each time there.
Well, I understand that, but citizens. I personally got some phone calls this last year regarding this issue, and found out that the city was actually cited one contractor for using a roll-off from another company.
Sure. Industry standard, we all know where we're supposed to be and where we're not supposed to be. It's kind of a shame that some operators were out here. You won't see a waste management dumpster roll off anything out in Hondo, anywhere the other areas where we see what oftentimes it's the smaller haulers that they'll sell anything, and unfortunately you can't. What you're getting with us is the integrity and the stability that our company operates with, and you know whose trucks are on the street.
I hesitate when I start telling somebody who they can do business with.
Sure.
I'd just like to ask a question. So how come we have a CPS franchise and we get people aren't allowed to use any other provider? Is it the same thing, or is it?
I can't speak to CPS, I'm sorry.
Huh?
I wouldn't be able to speak to
The
CPS.
city buys the electricity from CPS and resells it, so that's a choice of the city.
Well, we in essence franchises,
You purchase our services and then sell it to your residents and businesses.
because we do pay him first, then we get some money after. But something to definitely look into.
But there are
So
regulations
that should be part of the application for a construction permit is to include that fee and
We could bring that up.
for that.
And that's what we would drop the ball.
Okay.
All right, very good. We good?
Yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
District 1.
Yeah. I have no problems with the revision. It just something perked my ears.
Sure.
When you said not near any parked vehicle. Some places, if we put it somewhere else, it's blocking the mailman, and then the mailman will get mad and won't deliver your mail, and you'll get an aftergram. So is that a hard, gotta have it near no parked vehicle? Because
I would say-
otherwise, like for my house,
Yes, ma'am.
it'll be further down on my lot. I have where my house sits and the lot beside me, that's on my yard. But if you don't know that, you would think it's a vacant lot.
Sure.
But it would be behind my vehicle then in front of my other portion of my yard.
I would say it's at least on our end and our drivers, for the safety of our customers and their property, it's a hard item. It doesn't mean that we won't collect it. We'll work on an individual basis
Okay.
with each resident to find out. That's where our route managers and our drivers, that's one thing why we like being here. Our drivers know your area probably better than some of the people in the
Right.
room. You know, they know, and if we speak to our drivers and they're able to tell me, oh, on Mexico Street, this person puts out their can on this day. Well, if we somehow get some notice from the resident, whether it's through the city or directly to our drivers, we'll work on that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And he, if I may comment, because he had commented about that.
You need to ask me.
Thank you.
Would you like
No.
further discussion?
Well, I just wanted to, so you had offered up, because there's a group that live right up the street from me, and they pile it all together, and what you explained is they need to separate it. They were trying to do it to be efficient for you, and you were explaining that
Yeah, we
they shouldn't.
can work with any resident or group of residents.
But you said to make sure that we're having the residents contact Public Works, let them know what's going on, they can communicate that with you, and so like,
Okay.
if you have to put it, so like they don't want to put it in front of their houses because they've got the telephone lines going through there, and when they use the claw, they dig up the telephone
Right.
lines. And so they put it across at somebody else's lot, but they know where that is, as long as they're communicating that with Public Works, they communicate that with Waste Management. I think it's a great solution.
Oh, yeah, no, that works out beautifully because I have neighbors do the same thing on our lot because our lot, it doesn't have their fence and everything, so they don't have to worry about being a hassle for Waste Management as well as potential taking out a fence line. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like
Mayor,
to, yes,
can I have one more comment?
sure.
In addressing Mr. Carey's comment, I've worked head offices in different cities. Selma's had this program for years. But one time in San Antonio, we actually hired a dumpster, and for about 2 years later, I realized they weren't hauling our debris to a licensed landfill. And the person who gets fined by the state when that occurs is the person who generated the waste, the homeowner or the contractor. So that's why at first I was not in favor of city of Selma's, because I thought the same thing. They can't tell me who I have to use. But then I realized it's really the protection of everybody. So that's where I didn't have a problem with that. I think it does protect the citizens, just for the insurance that Chris said, but also we know with them that it's going to the proper landfill, whereas other people, they'll just dump it in the field somewhere. And again, people don't realize that they get fined, but also the generator of the waste gets fined. So that's the only comment I have.
Any more discussion? I'm going to try to summarize. There's so much. The Waste Management Company has worked with us. We do have the 6 cubic yards for brush separate from waste, correct? 2 different piles?
Well, you'd have a trash can, you'd have a recycling can, cart, if you will, with wheels, and then each month you'll have a 6 cubic yard pile, which is around 3 feet by 6 feet by 9 feet,
And this
roughly.
is-
And that'll be on, I don't think we have any plans to change your service days of brush, right?
Okay.
Or bulk, so it'll be at the same time, it's just a different allotment size.
Okay, good. And then as far as options or anything like that, we could address them through Public Works now, who will work with you.
Operational, quirks, we can work with.
Logistics.
Logistics, we can work through that.
Okay. And then the last one was Mr. Perry's comment about the franchise. And I did look it up, as Mr. King, as Councilman King said, and it is a question of the landfill and having hazardous waste mixed with regular waste. It's a serious business. So we know you won't do that, right? Anyway. All right. Is there any more discussion after that summary? Hopefully I did it correctly. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the contract as written with Waste Management.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much,
Thank you all,
Chris.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Ms. Brianna, our community director, is going to present discussion and action on a variance for the proposed subdivision of Country Village Estates Phase 1, which is located at 123 Country Lane, Castroville, to approve, disapprove a request for variance to allow the minimum street frontage to be shorter than 80 feet as required by City of Castroville Ordinance 2002-003, Section 100-54. Where is this in relation to our current?
It's going to be the northeast side of it, where Country Lane ends, and then the Country Lane that comes up from 90, and it's in the corner. If you can look, the plat is attached. It's one of the.
This variance is not for everything, just a certain portion.
Just as phase 1.
Okay.
Yes.
2 lots, right?
It looks like it's 14 lots, but I can explain to you in a minute what we're kind of going over. Yeah. No, it's okay. Good evening. So Country Village is.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Country Village is asking for a variance from this ordinance. So right now, the lot frontage that's required is 80 feet in the front. If you look at the plat, you can see that a lot of these lots are on corners. And so if you were to take the rounded edge of that, it would give it the 80 feet. But because verbiage can be kind of tricky in the subdivision ordinance, we just kind of wanted to clarify that. But there are 2 lots that are smaller than the 80-foot frontage that's required. 2, yeah. 3. 3?
3 lots?
I thought it was 2.
I see 5.
You see 5?
Yeah, lot 40, 49, 50, and lot 1 and 2 right below them are all 74, 78, 75.
Yeah, but like I said, if you took like the curves of
This
those.
is the back dimension, the full lot dimension.
I'm sorry? Okay, I was like.
For that communication area.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
76, 78, 78, 75, 74.
Okay, then it is 5 lots along the east side of that
Could you
property.
repeat that, please, then? 5 lots?
5 lots.
And they are?
It is going to be 48, 49, 50, 1, and 2.
Yeah, that 1 and 2 are in block 2 and, I guess those aren't block numbers.
And so this already went through a planning and zoning commission, and they did recommend approval to city council. And I think their main basis for this was because the lots still meet the 12,000 square foot minimum. So it's not that the lots are just smaller, it's just that the frontage on the street is smaller than what an average frontage would be for the city of Castroville. So.
Okay. Let's start the other way around. We'll start with District 1.
No problems.
District 2?
They had a space consideration there. There's just not enough room to really bring those up to size.
Yeah.
That they've made adequate accommodation to meet the minimum square footage. I have no problem with it.
Okay, good. District 3?
I'd like to lay out that anytime you have twists and turns like that, it slows down traffic through the neighborhood. So I think it's beneficial to the neighborhood to be laid out that way. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay. So in the minutes, do we have to specify it's 5 lots?
I would.
Okay,
Yeah.
so make a note.
And I'll number the lots.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, what's next would be,
Oh, I know what they did in the Planning and Zoning Commission is they said as platted, just to make sure that they know that it's just the lots, how they were platted according to this preliminary plat. You could put the lot numbers, but that's just how they did it in the Planning and Zoning Commission approval, so.
This is still preliminary?
This is still preliminary, yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with the lot sizes as long as they're the 12,000 square feet. And I don't know if I'm allowed to even ask this.
sure.
The entrances, is there 1 or 2 entrances to this place?
There's going to be 1 full entrance, and then on lot 22, which is not shown here because this has been going on the past week or so,
Yeah.
there's going to be a second access that's just for emergency vehicles that's going to have a Knox box there. Yeah.
Where is that?
It's going to be where lot 22 is located, right there at the northwest part of the subdivision.
The other country lane.
End of the, end
Yeah.
country lane.
Yeah.
Because I do know in the past, we always talked about having 2.
2 country
Yes.
lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really needs to be changed, but, and I guess where I'm going from is my roots back in transportation, school buses, one in, one entrance and exit, you know, that makes it difficult. I'm hoping the size of the cul-de-sacs are big enough. I don't even know if they would go into the cul-de-sacs, but they definitely go to an intersection too, so I have no problem with that other than, wish it had another entrance, permanent entrance, not a emergency entrance.
Yeah, that's,
And I don't know if that's something that,
yeah, we need to maybe clarify because we do have development. We did.
I know, may I say something?
Sure.
So I know that there was an issue with through traffic in the first part of Country Village. We've gotten several complaints about that. So this is one of, so this was also, it was thought out because this does eliminate through traffic for this second part of Country Village. So it was thought out to eliminate that second entrance because that was an issue that we've had that's been brought to my attention quite often. So.
Well, I know ESD will have an issue. We
That's-
didn't talk to them.
that's big enough.
I'm sorry?
ESD, the emergency services, because that was the issue prior when we discussed it.
Well, I think that, so,
Because this has been already through. We did this how long ago?
well, so what happened was in 2017, the preliminary plat was approved, but because it went over the 1-year expiration date, we had to come back and do it again. So, yeah. Mhm.
So are these things you want?
Yeah, and I think we're getting a little off topic, but yeah, I can answer any questions that you'll have.
We're being a little what?
Off topic.
Oh, that's why I asked that question.
No,
I'm good with the lot sizes.
Yeah. that's- No, you're right. It's
No, I'm just looking into some other things there, that's all.
it's other
I'm
things
sorry.
that we should have.
Talk to
This will come
attorney.
back. This will be brought back.
It will be brought back.
This will be brought back.
Okay. I'm good.
All right, we'll have to check, make sure, because that was asked, you weren't here when we discussed it.
Yeah, but even though it was passed, it expired, so it's a new plat. It's like a start over, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to do it right.
Yeah, this is to ordinance, so it is technically right.
Is this an agreement of any type?
No,
It's just doing what you guys decided to do?
not us guys, it's according to all the ordinances
No,
that
no, I
are.
mean, but you meet with Upmore?
I think what she's
But you've met
asking
with
is,
them before.
you're asking if she's following policy?
No,
No?
I'm asking if you met with Upmore.
Yeah, Upmore and BGE, the engineers for this project, I've met with both of them, as has Mike Christine, our city engineer. So, and I think even Leroy and John have probably met with them as well, too, so.
All right. Because I remember we had all this discussion with Upmore in the past when this came up. Even cul-de-sacs and concrete. But anyway, that's in the past. Okay. Would you like to say something about the very?
No, I was just looking at it, we'll answer questions.
All right.
That's all the questions I have, Mayor.
All right.
District 5.
You're good?
That's me. Well, I just wanted to say, they're still meeting the 12,000 square foot requirement. One thing that I do like about, and I support this because they're looking at where the actual front of the house would be. It fits a lot. They could meet the ordinance by putting it in a weird location, and I think that it fits with the neighborhood a lot better like this.
Yeah.
And they're meeting the spirit of what we're asking for, so I fully support this.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one more question, Mayor.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Where's the house located that's on that property currently?
Lot 55.
Lot 55?
Lot 55?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. No further questions.
All right. So, any more discussion? And summarizing, everybody's okay with this, but we did mention ingress and egress, but that's something that is not in this particular agenda item, so it can't be addressed. May I have a motion?
Move that we approve the application for variance request for the proposed subdivision of Country Village Estates Phase 1, allowing a minimum street frontage of less than 80 feet on the 5 lots presented.
I second it.
I didn't ask yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Todd? Okay. 'Cause I did.
I'm sorry, the
I
second.
can't see
Yeah,
over here.
as per the
second
plan.
was who?
It was Todd. Okay. Councilman Schiff.
If in the motion, could we include as per the plat, just so we know that it's only for this phase and then
Phase
this,
one?
this phase 1, it's not for the
Oh, I
second
did read
phase?
phase
Oh,
one.
did you? Okay,
Yeah. He did.
okay,
Good.
sorry.
Is that good?
All right. Thank you.
We vote yet?
We haven't voted yet.
All right. So we have this is phase
Phase 1.
1, Country Village. All right.
Country Village Estates.
Oh, estates. He
Yes.
said estates.
Yes, he did.
I read it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, the next one was my item because I brought it up because there's been some confusion between Dol Medina as an economic development and CAEDC, I think it's an Economic Development Corporation, or the opposite, and Chamber. So I don't think this agenda has been troublesome because I didn't have computer access and things came up at the last minute. So I'm asking if council would mind, I talked to Arnie or somebody, would mind if we would hold this and put it on the agenda next meeting.
Table it?
I'm with me.
Put it on next meeting.
I move that we table it for the next meeting.
I second.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So what are we trying to accomplish with this?
The roles of CAEDC, Dol Medina, and the Chamber. And I wanted to add Clay Binford because he is our development council
That was just information, as it says no
yeah.
action.
So if you wouldn't mind, we need a more thorough packet with it that we weren't able to get. So do I have a motion?
Councilman Carey had a motion, and I seconded it.
And you seconded it? Very good.
Either
Can't
way.
hear when you-
Councilman Shearer,
All right,
I took off my muffler too.
next one, now I recognize you.
We voting?
All right, discussion and appropriate action on reopening of city facilities.
Don't you have to vote on that?
I think we do, don't
We
we?
need a vote.
The table?
We have
You have to vote
a
on
motion and a second.
I didn't vote?
No?
No,
All right,
ma'am?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. All right, discussion and appropriate action on reopening of city facilities and parks to the public, and this is Mr. Vidalis, he isn't here. I would like to also make a remark about this because council asked when Mr. Devin brought this up, and council said, yes, we'll do fitness swim. Carrie and, I don't remember who it was, but I remember council asked him to come back with the cost of these things. And honestly, as I looked at it, I want to make sure that the city administrator is able to comment, because the timelines are not congruent with the governor's orders that they have. And there's a lot of additional costs. I noticed the library wants touch faucets and sneeze guards as well as the park. And the park, just a second. And the park also talks about dorm rooms and all kinds of other stuff. So
I thought we approved the fitness swim.
we did, but in his opening of facilities, he doesn't approve it. He's got it for the 8th or something, I don't remember. It's a long document to read. And there was a lot of, I know council, I think it was Councilman Keating was concerned about the costs of all these things and who would be enforcing, because Mr. Frederickson has a lot of things that have to be enforced, and the use of the police with overtime, et cetera, for enforcement.
Okay, you're,
Which we can enforce, because we really can't enforce things according to the new order, which is there.
okay, according to the
We have
meeting
the
minutes
order.
from last
Fitness
time,
swim says it
page
started
5.
June 1st.
Yeah, he says June 6th or something like
No,
that.
you said June 1st.
He did,
Yeah.
on his
Yeah.
opening?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on page 5 of last city council meeting is where it's at.
I've got June 1st, fitness swim in phase 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was phase 1?
Well, the walking, running trails,
But that
biking, and
wasn't,
fishing.
I don't remember that even being discussed in
We never
phase.
shut it down. The city never shut those down.
He did swimming in the river.
Well, the swimming's not in there. That's just walking, running, trails, biking, and fishing. Swimming actually is down below in phase 3.
Because I got a lot of complaints about a sign that said, "River closed by order of the city of Castroville." And
The river?
yeah, it said river
Wow.
closed. So everybody had a fit and said, "You can't close the river, we know." And I talked to, I don't remember, the chief, I believe. We had the police force out there enforcing these things. And we really, that's a council decision. So
But they changed out the sign, I
they
think.
did.
Yeah, and now it only says no
And
swimming.
Devin's not here. to
When's our
take
next
questions.
meeting?
The 23rd.
Thank you.
When will he be back?
Just
Oh, well, then-
interfere with all this stuff.
I'm not sure.
You want me to get him on the phone?
I know John was.
No, we'll wait, because,
Can we still have discussion on this, though?
yeah, just a second. So now, I understood the agenda item to be approved plans reopening of all city facilities. And the only 3 I have is the library, city hall, and regional park. I don't know if this applies to Lions Park, Pepper Square, Union Square. I don't see anything for Public Works.
Municipal offices is the front page.
Yeah, but it's at all, so I need community, Brianna's office, because they do interact with customers. The airport, they interact with customers. And just my own comment. So, if you guys still want to discuss, Devin's not here. Do we want to hear Angela?
And I'm speaking for City Hall. Leroy asked me if I can. I mean,
Deborah's speaking for City Hall, but I would like you to look at the governor's orders, which have been included, which we are to abide by. It's in your, isn't it in their packet?
handed
It's
them
right
out.
here.
Oh, okay.
Everybody has
So
it.
you have the most recent government orders, governor's orders that we should abide by. So in actuality, I really don't think we need to worry about all this, unless you
Mayor,
want to.
The agenda item doesn't say all city
Yeah, it
facilities,
does.
it says
Approved plans
reopening
and
of
set
city
date of
facilities.
reopening of all city facilities. That's what I have on
It doesn't
my
say
list.
all. Have the word
No,
all.
the agenda does not
The
say
agen-
that.
The
No,
agenda
the-
says discussion
Oh, that's a
and
mistake,
appropriation of
because the
reopening.
agenda report says all.
Right,
Look at your
but
agenda
the-
report.
Well, the agenda wording that we go by is, sometimes that, on the reports, they don't necessarily have the full.
They need to,
We go by the agenda
well,
wording.
they need to work, because I didn't see that. I saw this. And I didn't even see the agenda, honestly. I didn't see these things before they were put on.
Well, and only on, like, for
And
the
I
city
do agree
hall.
we've got a mess right now, so I understand that.
Well, and on the city hall and the visitor center, we're just trying to figure out here when we need to start preparing to open up, as far as like tonight. In the steps would be taking temperature, 6 feet apart, being able for people to, and a lot of people may not come into Baileyville, they may get used to that, but we need to figure out, I guess, we also quite possibly could have a court case here, June 30th, depending on if it's finalized. But that's what we were trying to figure out. Y'all would decide when we would open back up. And of course, on the steps that we would take, we would definitely follow.
That makes sense. So we would decide when to open.
That's the big thing, yes, ma'am. If y'all agree to next Monday, we would do it next Monday, or whenever y'all decide that when we start up for our city facilities. The parks, I'm not sure. I don't know if John can answer to that on the parks and such, because I know there's phases of that, of course.
Because on page 2 of the new orders, it's all open.
And I
But I'd like, one more thing, I noticed that in Devon's and I think yours, they mentioned that the opening would depend on case counts or something, data that you would have. However, that data would have to come from the emergency manager. If it were, huh? No, I'm talking to Angela. I think it's a
I
nurse.
do,
Just a second. So, all I'm saying is, due to the state emergency management plan and the governor's orders, we need to be sure we abide by them, and it's congruent. It's all the same throughout the facilities at the opening. I guess you could do different things as long as you follow the rules, but that's fine.
That's what.
All right, so we'll open discussion. We'll start with Karen.
So, I'm fully in favor of, let me back up for a second. So the whole reason for the restrictions, it's to protect our citizens, right? And the reason that it was set up the way that it was, that the governor is the resounding authority.
No, this wasn't from the
May I?
governor. How did y'all decide?
So can I?
I'm sorry, but
Let me
let me
just-
get that background from,
I'm not actually even talking about
Let her
that.
talk.
let me get her down.
So
How
what
did
we
y'all come
did,
about this?
no, what we did make a report, we were making sure that was compliant to the government orders. So everything that we took from there, and you can even look on
But which one?
our report, the
Which
governor's, the reopening
26?
orders. So on
Wait,
ours, you can,
26?
yeah, on ours, but you can say that libraries may open
No,
up.
but Angela, did you use order 26?
Yeah, whatever they put out, the most recent and current
Well, I
orders,
didn't
we
see
did.
that.
We did.
Angela,
But,
could you take your mask off, please?
sorry.
Thank you. I
Okay.
just, we could understand
So,
better. Thank you.
order 26?
So what we did was we made sure to go through the governor's reopening phases. So we made sure, but our library is so small, according to the 6 feet social distancing, we can't accommodate that right now. We did look at the square footage So our square footage, I think it's in your report. It is, the library square footage is 3,321, but the public area square footage is 2,816. According to that, the occupancy is 56. So if it's 25, then it'll be 14. And also you have to keep in mind the open. We have all these stacks, all these tables, so we really, the number should go down. But right now what we're proposing, instead of opening it, we want to initiate a curbside service.
Curb what?
Curbside service.
Oh.
And it'll be for June and July, just for the safety and the precaution of the citizens. They will be able to go to our catalog, go ahead and reserve materials from the stacks, and we'll pull them. We'll notify when their stuff is ready. We will have a curbside service where it has their last name. They will come. It says in our presentation, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we want to make sure that they are getting their materials. When those materials come back, we are going to initiate a quarantine of the materials, because there is different literature that it's 72 hours, then it's 14 days. These are books. They're heavily, yes. So just to be on the safe side, we did do 14 days. So that's what I would like to initiate. We did set it for June 8th to July 3rd. And it's just because our building is so small at this moment. And we do look at the numbers that are sent to us, because I do put them on the website. So we keep track of that as well.
I like it.
And all of this answered, and I know you said about the touchless sinks. We figured our sink faucets are really old, the old kind that there's cracks in. You know, it would be easier and simpler just to wipe it down, no contact for the, so we would be saving money in disinfecting rather than spraying the whole area, just get it really fast, easy. We also want to implement like motion sensors, so when they go into the restroom, they're not touching stuff. So these are actually to save the city money in the long run, rather than having to go and wipe down everything really, really good, just, you know. So we are trying to save cost. The plexiglass shields, when it comes to phase 2, and that would be the opening of it, which would be browsing only. So we would let the patrons come in for 30 minutes. They can look at their stuff, bring it to us, check it out, and then go ahead and leave.
That would be July.
July 6th through
Sorry.
July 31st.
Can we wait and get Devin? Who's going to explain Devin's? And then we'll do discussion. You're going to do Devin's?
No. No.
So,
I don't feel comfortable explaining. He asked me if he had questions, he would get on the phone.
No, because I personally have a lot, because.
So, I mean, our phase plan,
So
we
we'll
did
just-
go by the governor's
So we're
order.
just going to address City Hall, so that's you right now then? Would you do City Hall for us again?
Well,
You have it?
basically, ours is very simple. And it just shows it would be open regular hours, 8 to 5. It would be the same as, I guess, you know, we prefer people to wear masks. You can, of course, make that a requirement. We do have the temperature thermometers.
Yeah.
Every city office has one. We do, Public Works, the PD, the Visitor Center has one. We did purchase for every one of the facilities so that we can take the temperatures. I will be marking, there's marks there now on our walk-in. I just haven't put my bright pink yet. So people can say 6 feet apart, either coming in to do their utilities or the court. And also, once we open this up enough, on the days that are very busy, we're looking at possibly opening the second window, but also having a one-way where they come in and they would come out this door right here at the chamber so that they wouldn't pass each other. And that way we would set it up to where when they did come in to pay their bills, they could exit a different sort of door. But, and of course, this is, as y'all have at the very beginning when we closed it down, it started going by the procedures. Also, up front, we already have the plexiglass, which is good. And far as where the opening is, where they would slide their payments through, we will either find some way of putting something up similar to, I think the police bar has a little something, to where when they, you know, if they was to lean down, it's gonna stop anyone that maybe doesn't have a mask on that perhaps did cough or sneeze. And we'll also routinely clean the bathroom outside in the back. Of course, we have someone that cleans the offices at night, but we will take the initiative to go out and clean it periodically after, because we can see people that go and use it. But also, we have the cleaning supplies, the hand sanitizers. We'll have that out for, you know, up front in the different windows so that people can use those. Wipes, we'll have those too. Look, we're doing the cleaning now, even with just our staff coming in and out, you know, for the city. So, you know, and just whenever y'all feel comfortable that we can open back up for the public is when we will start this.
And don't get me wrong, your presentation is beautiful, very well done. I'm just wondering, are we going to pass this as an ordinance, or what will it be? Because I don't understand, this is just a personal, a city personnel recommendation.
Well,
because we already have our emergency management through the state, but we need to.
Correct.
So this is just a city policy.
Correct, and this would, if you take action on it and vote to say, so it would be official, you know, if you said, okay, we're gonna open city facilities up at a certain date, that way we can plan ahead and be prepared.
Does it need to be an amendment to our current emergency orders?
Well, they have already expired, if you remember,
Yeah.
and so this would not be an amendment to it, this would
So
be.
it's just a personal policy that
Correct.
council's
Correct.
personnel policy?
Yes.
All right, good. All right.
It would be a local.
And again, beautiful work.
And
by the
then
way.
on space 5, it says total reopening, but if you read it, it says with a vast amount of considerations, we need to ensure the library environment is both physically and psychologically safe for the staff and the patrons. So say if WHO or CDC or the government recommendations say, okay, we need to pull back, we need to shut, then we have those phases implemented that we can go back, okay, it's phase 1, we're at phase 3, or we're phase 4, we can go forward and backward. So it would be up to, like you said, emergency management.
Okay. And I do know that the only thing that we're concerned about would be if anyone's been exposed, because we really need that information.
Yes.
And that at this point, that's our main concern.
Yes.
And I believe you provide that, correct? You and Chief Jackson? You and Chief Jackson provide us with that information.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yes.
I misunderstood this whole thing.
No,
So-
and we don't want to open fully. We want to take precautions. We want to make sure that they are getting their materials and their books and they're utilizing the library, but also being safe for them and the patrons.
I appreciate that, Angela. It's beautiful, beautiful presentation. Okay, so I'm going to go open for discussion. I had some questions for Devin, though, but you don't.
I'll try.
All right. If we look at Parks and Recreation opening, we have the risk assessment that he did. Where did he get? We don't get numbers for the park, do we?
Numbers.
We don't even check entrance.
No, we don't have a counter or anything.
No, we don't have the capability of doing that.
But we do, this also includes the RV park?
The numbers?
Yeah, his risk assessment.
Yes.
So how many people go to, how many can we have an RV park?
I don't remember how many spaces we have because we have, I know some of them they're maybe not using right now. And on the spacing of the RVs, and I'm sorry, I'm not real sure about this, but I'm not sure that he's not making them space out because you have to be careful on 6 foot.
Well,
And ours is pretty close on some of them. So, but.
I don't even know if we need to worry about it, but also the facilities for the RV would be separate from the facilities for the park.
Oh, opening like the
So-
rec room and such?
And they are.
So he would have social distancing in
Yes.
the RV.
Yes.
Who would enforce that?
Well, it would be one of himself or possibly one of his employees. Because I know at one point we
were
have
cleaning
an
them.
assistant.
Yes, we were cleaning
Park
those.
attendant.
Our own folks.
So it would be staff?
Right, staff.
Okay, good. And then there's a dorm room in here. I don't know, I guess that's from something else.
Where's that at?
Then on page 2, Mr. King explained that, Councilman King, phase 1 was actually fitness swim, you said?
Fitness swimming is open.
Was phase 1.
Starting
No.
June 1st.
That started June 1st.
Phase
It's
2.
Phase 2.
So we've already started phase 2.
Correct.
Fitness swim, RV,
And
tennis
RV
court,
park.
smart bathroom, athletic fields, and tent camping.
June
That's what it
15th.
said. It was because that fitness swim is in there with the art. So is the RV open, RV park?
It's the color coding that is.
Right now, I don't believe, I think they're wanting to take reservations.
They want to get to that point. Right
Right,
now,
we're
they
wanting
just
to
have the
be able
people
to-
that are there now.
Exactly. It's still the same ones. I think we're wanting for, if y'all approve this, we can go ahead and start taking
Take
reservations for people.
Yeah, and they'll have to
Since the
give you
state
the
parks
dates.
have started opening.
Right.
Okay, council will give you the dates. All right. And then phase 3 is adult sports. So what's the difference between adult? and
Well,
youth?
Adults playing softball, baseball?
Yes.
No, softball at the regional, it's at the airport.
No.
Yeah, the Lions Park has softball.
Right. And
Yeah.
that
That's part of
follows the governor's order.
Volleyball.
Yeah, adults.
But this I thought was just regional. I didn't see.
It's for
Lions.
all the parks.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am. It's for all the park facilities.
okay. All right, so, and then pavilions, we don't even need to worry about the percentage because it's open. Governor said go for
And
it.
we would definitely follow whatever the governor said.
That,
and-
that's the main purpose.
Yes.
is He would follow
Yes.
all the standards, the
Yes.
local and state standards.
Unless y'all
Unless.
have more
council-
restrictive, I mean.
Okay,
we will
and I'd
follow.
really like to look at the swimming and river. I'm not real sure about the authority for that one.
Well, I know on the river, in the past, when they
Yeah.
talked about it, in the council, at one time, we didn't have anybody in there. I know we can't regulate when they get in the river, correct, because we don't own the water. But if they get in at our park, that's why we have the signage that says
You
swim
can
at
keep
your own
them that
risk.
way off the.
Right, I knew we
Because-
had that.
Because we can regulate that.
Yeah.
But
If they come down the river in a boat, you couldn't stop that.
Right, exactly.
So.
So-
You just can't get out there.
I know originally we had kayaking and that's not here anymore.
It was proposed, I don't think we ever.
It was what?
It was proposed, I don't think we ever.
Yeah, it was on
approved
the,
any restriction on kayaking.
they told me it was on the side. That's all I'm saying.
On the site, in the park, yeah.
And you're.
They kayak the river above the dam here. Yeah.
Is
Is it deeper or wider?
kayak?
Maybe. It's probably deeper, I'm sure.
It is.
So kayaking's okay.
The swim lessons, at the last meeting, we were told that was going to be nixed because they can't do the contact.
I guess a question, is this a general question thing, or are we going through comments?
Well, the problem is, he said he'd try to answer my questions, that's all, right now.
Right, but are you
So-
planning that then you're going to ask
Yes.
us individually?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And I think we're actually getting a little bit in the weeds with this. I think that it would be.
I need to get in the
prudent.
weeds
I
because
understand
there's a
that.
lot of enforcement that it even says that
I understand.
they're asking for budget allotments for enforcement of these things. So I'm concerned because we're having our budget just talks and it's,
Totally understand.
everybody says, well, yeah, big deal.
But I still think-
Nothing important,
Well,
but.
and I just got a text, Devin was asking if he could call in. I guess he could explain a little more.
Yeah, and he said the
But-
attorney has given him input on this as well.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah, because
He did have her look at it.
She hasn't seen that?
No, she
No,
hasn't.
she has.
Oh, she has it, she said it's good?
Yes.
All right, so,
I guess as far as the budgetary, for the amounts and such, if it's something that you have to look at the budget, that would be something in the future you would discuss.
What I'd really like to do is, if it's okay, and I'm not trying to push you on.
wait, let
I-
me get in order, okay?
I-
Real fast, all right, so we'll
You
start
already
again.
brought me, I
Yeah,
already
go
started.
ahead.
Okay. So I think that we are getting too much in the weeds with this.
That's our
Um,
choice. Go ahead. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right. So our job is to protect our citizens, not to limit our citizens. I wear a mask not to protect me, but to protect you. And so the final authority on this in Texas is our governor. As long as we follow that, that is our baseline. We cannot go beyond that. We have to stay within his restrictions. And I think that we have great department heads that know what their facilities can do. They understand what their financial limitations are. They understand what their personnel limitations are. And I know that we're digging into some of the details here, but really, my concern is I don't want to get into the details of kayaks or, tennis rackets or whatever. I think that this is what they do. They lead their departments, and I think that we need to empower them to be able to do that, as long as it fits within their allotted budget. If it goes outside of that, obviously it has to come to us. If they meet the governor's orders, and there's no getting around the governor's orders, as long as they can support it and keep themselves protected, then I think that we empower them to do that and let them make that call, as long as they fit within those given parameters. If we get into the individual details, I feel like that is going to limit them, it's going to limit our citizens, it's going to limit our staff, and I would rather empower them to do their jobs.
I have to respond to that because typically, that's what I ask. I want to empower council. I want you guys to be empowered, and
Yes.
I want you to have all the information that you need.
No, I totally agree with that, but as long as they fit
Wait a
within.
second. So what happens is, like, I got all these calls because things were closed at the park. And the council did not make that decision, and that is a decision the council should make. Because the department head does not have the authority to close, well, what happened in the river, I believe, and call the police to enforce. So I just want to make sure that we don't do that again, that's all. I'm not being picky, this is just typically the
And
way
we're
I
not
go.
talking here about closing things down, we're talking about opening them up. And so I feel like, I don't think that, hold on, I don't think that we're through this. And I think that it's going to resurge, but this is what our governor, these are the instructions that he's given us. I think that we need to follow that and we react to it. If we have a surge of cases, then we need to react more strictly.
No, but that's not the order. That's why I want to go by the order.
No, that is part of his order, is if you surge, you have the ability to. So if we have a surge and we have an extra 100 cases in Castroville,
We can go back.
we need to go back.
Personnel, this is not,
So
I just
that
want
would,
to
hold on,
separate it from an emergency management plan.
totally agree with
It's
that. So
not.
we're talking about
This is personnel policy for the
Right.
city.
So we're talking about reopening, the
And,
reopening plan, and
yes.
I think that we need to be the least restrictive that we can while still protecting our citizens, our city staff.
And the budget and the law.
Exactly. And that's, with those parameters, I support them making those decisions. When they close down the river, it's because they don't have the staff to be
They
able to.
cannot make that decision, is what I want to make clear. That's council. They have
Fair,
limits to
okay, so
their authority.
fair enough, fair enough. In closing down, agree with that.
That's council, that's you.
That would
guys.
be a specially called meeting that we would have to, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about reopening.
And closing down that river access during that time was due to overcrowding.
Yeah, but the signs, I got complaints. They called in and they said, why did y'all close, why did the city close the river? And I said, we didn't, nobody closed the river. And
They
then I
just
called.
closed that river access, that river
No,
access.
but the sign said closed the river. I have a picture and I've got the
It'd be
invoices
hard
where
for
he
us to
ordered
close
the
the entire
sign.
river.
Yeah, well, he ordered the signs well before.
So you missed the word access. And we have to be careful about that. River access from the park
And
is
so
closed down.
I
We can
asked,
do that.
in
But
fact, I was there when the police was enforcing it. And the citizens were furious that were there that had the police enforcing it. And came to me and said, how can you enforce this? And blah, 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 blah.
You
So
can enforce it.
I went to chief and I don't know, I really don't know what happened. I don't know who got police out there to enforce that, but we did get it straight. And it was changed to what? I think Mr. King, what did they change it to?
It's the swimming. They specifically say just closed to swimming.
Swimming. Yeah, river's closed to swimming and by order of,
Parks and Recreation.
yeah, Parks and Recreation. I still got complaints. How do we have the authority to do that? And I don't know. And that was, I just want to make sure that we're protecting the citizens, which is within the bounds of our authority to protect the citizens.
absolutely, but we are not talking about closing
Yeah,
down.
and so we have PPE here that we're gonna have to get, it says. and you're gonna have to check and see if they're vulnerable. You have to do participation records and contact information. That's all in here. So maybe we could ask him to take things out and make it, like you said, not so.
Well, and I don't want to micromanage them. I think that we set the policy in place that allows them the freedom to be able to do their jobs. As long as we have the right parameters for them, let them make the decisions on what they can support, as long as it falls within the ones that we talked about, the governor's orders, the budget, and
Authority of ordering, directing police to enforce.
if you're trying to open something up and we don't have enough,
By law, you can't.
okay,
Department
can I
director
finish?
cannot.
Please, I'd like to finish. I
Well,
really
they
appreciate
can't
it.
directly.
If they collaborate with our police and they say, we want to open this up, and Chief Jackson says, I don't feel like we can support that and still meet the governor's orders, I think that that is something that they would say, okay, so we will, hold on. So they would say, okay, so in agreement with the police department, they would say, we don't want to cause you issues because that becomes a budget issue and that is within these parameters. And they would say, then we cannot yet open that. Once we can support that and meet the governor's orders with the staff that we have, with the budget that we have, then we're only talking about reopening. We are not talking about restricting.
I need to explain something. I'm not arguing with you. I just want you to understand what the state emergency plan, it's not the city plan.
I understand.
It's a state emergency plan, has restrictions
Agreed.
for the use of the police department,
Mhm.
for anything that's related to COVID, closing or opening.
Right.
And the city administrator has to give the emergency manager and emergency coordinator the invoices, the reasons, and the costs for all this stuff.
Agreed.
We can't just buy it because it's going to be in what's called the CARES Act.
Agreed.
So all this stuff, I know I'm not picking on them. We have to document these things.
Agreed.
And maybe you're not aware of that, but
I am.
it absolutely has to be documented in a special documentation and sent to the region health
Right.
district. And I have to document PPE. I have to document the use of the police force. I don't know if it's overtime. Is it? Was it overtime?
Will it be overtime?
When you enforce?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so
my
that's
original
overtime,
plan was
and I
be
have
more
to document
reserves.
the use of our city police away from their normal jobs
Right.
and additional duties from their job.
And that falls within the parameters of
And
the
that,
budget item.
yeah, but that's mine. No, it has nothing to do with the budget because this comes out of a CARES Act. I can pay for it. The city doesn't have to pay for it. We have the possibility to get that money under an emergency disaster.
Okay, I think I've said what I feel about this. I really feel that we should empower staff to reopen safely and carefully, and I don't want to argue that through. I just wanted to make sure that you understood where I was.
Yeah, I didn't. I really didn't. I thought you were arguing. I'm not arguing with what you're saying about personnel doing it. I'm just saying I need the specifics of what the city is using as far as equipment.
If it's additional.
No, it is additional because it's COVID.
No, if
Anything
it is
that's involved
additional
with
to
COVID.
support, so if it's additional to support COVID, totally
No,
agree.
anything with COVID.
Can somebody else please talk?
Yeah, sorry, please.
I
Thank you.
do have as a library manager, every director has to code these purchases. So it is documented.
And that's perfect. That's what I need.
No, it is documented. The
We're
receipts,
trying to-
the receipts have to be on there. So
Yes.
we do give it to Beck or we give it to Helga, so it is on the record
Perfect.
and on the book. So
Yes.
from there, if we can actually say, okay, it came from my building maintenance or like the sinks that are going to come for there, but I will put an additional note as
If
well.
you put
Everybody
COVID
else
on it?
can put for COVID related
Yes.
opening.
And then I can-
So we can make it transparent to everybody what we're buying and what we're doing. So we're already making those receipts.
I know you do. You always do. You always do your requests and stuff. So I know you do
So,
that.
we can totally put that as an added, like highlighted COVID. So that way, in addition to having it on file, they can actually be a folder where everybody's goes, airport, parks, everybody's.
Yeah,
It would just
and you
be
can.
the copies in there, so.
Thank you, Angela.
I mean, that's my
You probably explained
recommendation.
much better than I did.
So that's
Thank
my
you.
recommendation. Everything is documented, the receipts are there, but we can actually put a supplemental COVID reopening.
Perfect, because we could get additional money if we go over our 14,000. Okay, I will shut up. Councilman Shearhart, I will let someone else talk, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Who is next after Mr.?
Councilman Shearhart?
Okay.
Me?
Yes.
I get to talk? Wow, I won't be as long. I'm with Darren. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
I
Who's
agree.
next?
I support Darren, I support everything he's talking about.
All right, next. His name's Darren, Councilman Schroeder.
Councilman Schroeder,
Hey.
District 5.
All right, next.
District 3. Oh, no, you're,
District
he's
3.
District 5. you're
543.
District 4. A question, earlier, Deborah, you had said that our emergency order expired.
Yep.
But do we, right now, are we under an emergency order, or is that expired and all we're now is under the state's order?
Correct. The last one y'all adopted was the governor's order. So
Right.
whatever our personal one, I say the city's
It's true,
personal
though.
one has
Good question.
expired. But then when you did the last one, we moved forward to the governor's orders.
So your comment earlier that we're still under a city of Castroville emergency order, there is no, other
If
than
we
we
wish.
follow the governor's order.
Yeah, because what we did with the Medina County Emergency District, everybody adopted, all the cities adopted the governor's orders, and the city orders were superseded, or whatever the word is, like they were said.
Okay, so I think there's still some questions out there based on what Devin had said, some criteria. Like one question related to the library, are you all, and you may have said this, are you all going to write down people's names who,
Yes.
because that's part of the governor's order, does that way you can track them as somebody in that group?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen is her site goes first, and then, like I said, with the limitations of our square footage, they will come in, we'll take their temperature, we'll get information, and we can also print out how many people came and what their names was on a different day, because our Apollo system allows us to do that.
So they'll write down their name and their telephone
Yes.
number so you can contact them if something comes
Yes,
up.
and anything, we can run reports, and like, it'll tell us how many checkouts, what books. Our books also, when we check them in, it says quarantine for 14 days, it'll give us the date, we put them in boxes, then we open them on that day. In addition, we've been doing, and do a story time and stuff, we've been doing that all virtually. I know one thing, a big thing is summer camps. A lot of people have been calling for our summer camps, but at this point, we're not going to do it. What we're going to do is Zoom sessions, so they can, and it's through the Friends of the Library, they will be able to purchase $10 kits. Will come with everything that's required to follow along with the programs and the crafts. So we're trying to move everything in light of COVID to make sure we are providing this service to the patrons. So.
And I appreciate that's library. So like Deborah would lay the city hall. If people come in, I assume they will write their name down and their telephone number as they take their temperature. And that way, in case somebody did have COVID here one day, then you can contact us. I think that's in the governor's orders, but I know when I go visit private companies, I do that because they want to be able to get hold of me if something was
Correct.
wrong.
And also, coming in here too, we could also, and I'm assuming our system is this way, when they come in to pay their utility bill, we're gonna have it noted when they paid it, to where we could go back and
You could find
call
it.
it. Yes,
Oh,
call it up.
good.
And then also court would be the same thing, they could go back in, as far as I know, to the date, if we had something like that happen. Over at the Steinbach House, Betty will, of course, have the temperature, she will be able, people sign in our books, and then also, she will make sure that there's only a limited amount of people that can come in. But we
So
should
those
be
are all criteria. that
easily
they have to do, just
able
like-
to do that, yes, ma'am.
And that's also true of the swimming pool. I didn't see in Devin's thing that,
We have to track it too. People that
Yes.
come in, they have to sign in, we get their name. Anything rentable or anything that, anytime they come in, you have to.
right, and that would take care of this.
Yes.
The one
And that
thing.
must be a new standard.
Good, good, good. That's what, yeah.
And I read the governor's rules, but I don't, and I may be missing it because I've read it several times, but I don't see where it says we still have to maintain the 6 feet.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's in there, then I think, for instance, swing practice would be something difficult to do, And I think that's why we were a little nervous about it at the last meeting. Adult swim, fitness swim, we had no problem with, but swim practice and so swim lessons, swim practice, things like this, it's hard to do that. So I guess that's why at that time we said still closed down. So I was a little surprised to see that Devin, he was gonna open up swim lessons. Fitness swim, yes, I agree with that. Tennis courts should be a no-brainer. I think we should open up the tennis courts and because that's not a contact sport. Swimming in the river. I really don't have problems swimming in the river. Everybody that really swims in the river next to each other drove to the park in the same car. So to allow access to a swim in the river is fine. So I would say we need to open up the river because now on the bathrooms, I know that they want to open the bathrooms and they have to be clean. And in the city hall, Deborah, we mentioned the bathrooms back here back, but are they going to have to be the same hours as City Hall, 8 to 5? Or the person who's cleaning the bathrooms on the weekends at the park, can that city staff person also clean the bathrooms here periodically?
Well, now, we could close the bathroom, usually it was open, 24/7.
Right.
Now, that would be something that on Friday evenings after the lady that cleans our buildings and cleans that again, we could lock. And that way it would not be open on Saturdays and Sundays. Because she does clean on Friday nights and she does it on Saturdays and Sundays, of course. And then we would open it back up on Monday.
Well, I guess I would be advocating if we couldn't think of a plan to open it up, especially on the weekends when the tourists come in. But the person who's cleaning the bathrooms at the park, I'm assuming they're doing other things and they're gonna have to be there over the weekend to clean those bathrooms at the park. And that plan that of Devon's, so could that city employee also come over here at the same time and clean this bathroom if it's needed?
And that would be something we'd have to just ask. I'm not sure what that person's hours are. And so, if it's staggered or what, but we could look into that and see if that would be something, or depending on the cost, of course, we could look in and see if our cleaning service could come back on Saturday and Sunday to clean it. Now, they wouldn't be here all the time, of course, but they could give it a thorough cleaning in the evenings. If there was someone, per se, if that person that you have on staff that could do it in between some, but that would, could go back and look at that.
Because I would be open to leaving it open through the weekend, because that's when the tourists are here and that's the benefit of it.
Correct.
But we would have to figure out how to keep them clean, and that would either be, as you said, right from the city staff or the subcontract cleaner that we have. But then, so I think if we're doing things and following this, related to this, then I think we can open these things up. It would make sense to open them up, but some things I don't think we should open up yet. I don't think we should open up the pool to little kids playing where they're around each other. We're still out there to protect the kids. But at the river, again, the people who are using the river, it's not that I know the family units who live in the same house, but they're all driving in the same car to get to the river to go swimming.
Well, I believe what happened, and my understanding is what happened that weekend or whatever that came about, I do know, and he texted in to me because he wanted y'all to know, he did ask the interim city administrator and the police chief on the question of whether or not we needed to close it down because there was such a massive amount of people, and because there was only supposed to be, 10 people, maybe, together. And so I don't remember how many they said. Chief might be able to answer that, but there was a huge amount of people, and so there was an issue with the health issue. And maybe the signs wasn't quite the way it needed to sound, but that was the reason I think they closed it down that one week.
Yeah, because I think it was confusing. The first sign said river is closed, but then that means closed to fishing to everything. And then they took down that sign, and then they put up a separate sign that said river is closed to swimming, which I think is what the city council had said. So if at the same time they're keeping this, that they should be no larger than groups of larger than 10 and shall maintain 6 feet of social distancing from those not in their group. So again, at the pool, at the river, pretty big river, and it's not as crowded has the river crossing at Constantinople, which is a madhouse, but because it is our property, that's why we.
And I believe on that order too, I think there's something in there, if you have a group, and this is probably for a very large group, because I think it's 500, that they have to have permission from the mayor, and I believe, you know, maybe the county judge, I'm not sure, because it does put in, there's different things for large gatherings, probably weddings and that type of thing.
Yeah, it says the city can impose additional restrictions for groups of larger than 500. So again, I guess I'm kind of following Darren's deal about reopening, especially of these different facilities, making sure it's sensible, make sure that we do follow the governor's orders, but with the stipulation that I don't think we should open up swim practice or swim clubs.
Councilman King, I have a question. So well, I guess it's John. If we do open the amphitheaters, that's a special permit, right, for reservation?
It would be reservations, yes, ma'am.
So we'd be
So
opening.
you can say you're in there.
Well, they generally give us
You
an
can
amount of
say
people
yea or
that
nay,
they're
depending
doing
on
it
the size
for.
of the crowd.
A lot of times on those applications, they'll tell you how big the group is.
They do.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the amphitheater, or are you talking about the pavilion?
The groups, when they want to have gatherings at the areas, they have to reserve.
Not the big amphitheater.
All of them.
Well, or just where the cluster of
All
tables are
of
with
them.
the group.
Amphitheater and, what do
Yeah, I
they
don't
call
think-
it, pavilions?
Oh,
The
Yeah,
pavilions.
and during the reservation, we can tell them that they're.
You can
they can't-
screen that.
Yeah, we can.
What's the max? Do we have a max, or we don't even have one?
I don't think so on those, because they're open air, like you said, they're very large.
Well-
I know on special events, there's a number of people that, you know, if it's an event with, 200 or more, I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
but-
that they have to spell that out.
Yeah, but if we're gonna open it up, we can't let them more than 10.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, I mean, it's up to you guys.
Well, and Devin's plan said that, for instance, in the pavilions, which are the covered, with the just picnic tables, they're not the big amphitheater. But in that thing, his plan restricted the number of tables that they could use and the number of people, so they're still restricted under his plan. So I think his plan is good. One thing, again, his plan needs to be a little tweaked. He said that I think it had to do with face masks. The people at the front gate have to wear a face mask, but I don't think it said that and it said to make sure that the employee was supposed to make sure that the guest, when they walked in, had a face mask, but the page before that said criteria, that did not say the criteria is that the person had to wear a face mask. So it was kind of funny, there was no criteria for the person to wear the face mask, but the employee had to make sure the person was wearing a face mask. So I think there's some little, just going over it again type things. But other than that, those are really my comments. Hopefully they make sense.
All right, Councilman Martinez?
No, Paul
Oh,
Carey.
I'm sorry, Councilman Carey.
I commend you on the presentation. I'm very impressed. I think that you guys have done your due diligence. I think you've addressed compliance with the governor's orders. And you provide conversion clauses if we get into a situation or something unforeseen occurs. So I support the program we have. Thank you.
Good. Councilman Martinez?
Yeah, I agree with everybody, as long as we're following what the governor says, and it does say at least 6 feet, so here where Devin has under phase 3 highlighted in yellow for a starting date of June 22nd, swimming lessons, yeah, that's a hard nix. That's not gonna happen because we gotta have 6 feet, and a swim instructor has to touch their student, especially if they're the little kids. Yeah. As far as the library, I know Lytle's been doing the online thing. They come up to the front door, they bring up the books, so yep, all good for that too. We got to keep up with the cleaning. Whoever's on shift to be the cleaner needs to make sure, you got to make sure they understand, you got to clean. You can't just half butt it. You got to get in there, do it right, do it thorough. Because if you do a half butt job, it's not doing nobody any good. And we're trying to nix this, not make it worse.
So my staff, when it comes to cleaning actual books that come into the book drop, it's one area, they wear gloves and a face mask. She will check them in, make sure they're clean on the outside, then box them, and then when she reopens them, she cleans them. But with books, it's kind of hard because the inside, we
Correct.
only clean the outside.
Correct.
So,
But I'm talking about like the restrooms and stuff like that too. it's great that you have going for the touchless, but little kids are gonna touch.
Yes, yes, yes.
Anything automatic, kids are gonna, ooh, look, it's automatic, and touch to see how many times they can do it. So just because you get the touchless stuff, doesn't, you still
yes,
gotta
yes.
thoroughly clean.
Yes, we're gonna make sure.
Don't ever use that as a, oh yeah, we got this, we don't have to do it, so, no.
Yeah.
Kids are gonna play.
Yes, ma'am. We made
So-
sure, we also painted the restrooms. We went ahead and sanitized everything, got new mirrors. We were making sure that we're in compliance with the government.
Oh, I can understand.
Governor's order. Like, we're making sure everything is clean, so when it comes to phase 2, when you come in, we
Right.
can monitor everything and
Right.
make sure they're safe.
Yeah, and I mean, even at the pool, I mean, if they do the fitness swim, whoever's on shift that day, who's tagged to be the cleaner for the changing areas and everything, they've got to make sure they do it. Because some people don't like to clean, and if the lifeguards in that are normally the high school kids, and not all kids clean well. Yeah, I'm being reality. I mean, not even college kids clean well.
I have a teenage son.
You understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure that these people understand that how the very importance of their job that day. You're the cleaner. That's all you do is clean. Don't whine about it. Don't complain about it. If you don't want the job, we'll give it to somebody else. That.
Just real quick, so I know you mentioned you do cleaning for the True Value.
Yep.
Is there a specific disinfectant? I know they have, do you guys have a specific disinfectant we need to get?
So we've been using Clorox bleach, which is the multi-cleaner.
So that's good.
It's the spray, we just been doing bleach.
Yeah, ZEP, the True Value got, it's called ZEP. It's a disinfectant, and it kills everything.
And we do through the emergencies, through county, we have a fracking disinfectant that cities can use and dilute. I don't know if y'all understand what that is, but anyway, that's available for you.
I used to be a pharmacist, so yeah.
Otherwise, that's all I got.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and again, it's a beautiful presentation.
I appreciate that.
I'm
So
just a stickler.
I'd actually like to make,
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we empower the city staff to make the determination of how we reopen the facilities, as long as it meets with the governor's orders. It protects city staff. It fits within the existing budget, not a COVID budget, but the existing budget, and maintains safe hygiene for the protection of our citizens.
I'll second that. I think that's excellent.
All right, so what's the motion? You're not going to specifically adopt these two?
No, the motion is to empower staff to make the determination of how we reopen the
So
city,
these are good.
as long as it meets with the governor's orders, protects our city staff, fits within the existing budget, not a COVID budget, and uses proper hygiene to protect our citizens.
So your concerns about opening, no big deal. Departments will decide.
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
Well, according to Devin,
For Darren, too.
he's saying it's according to governor's order. Governor's order says 6 feet. So if that goes out, you cannot have swim lessons. That
So we
takes
won't
care of that
relook
one.
anything, you guys will organize the opening together.
Yes.
Well, that's good.
If y'all don't have a specific date you want us to do this, we will look at it.
According to the governor's orders.
We will be back tomorrow, and
Well,
we'll look at them and see.
And we can also take, if you have issues that say, Angela, can you please readdress this? It's fine, because we are trying to make sure the staff and patrons are safe
Yeah.
at all times. So like it is for the fitness swim or the lessons, yeah, just write in the email, and I'm pretty sure we can adjust the dates and make accommodations to make sure we're following the governor's orders.
Yeah, we
Don't
do.
you agree that there's a chance the governor's orders could change?
Yep.
Not the 6 feet.
Not for how long?
Not for a while.
Really?
When the chief of staff of the Air Force has already directed the Air Force that this is how we're going to be operating for at least a year until there's a vaccination and everybody's vaccinated, that says a lot. And they're already starting to have resurgences.
That's interesting, because Devin says that, it
Yeah.
doesn't stop when there's a vaccine available.
Yeah, and so we might see a vaccine in a year, might.
We got a motion and a second.
Okay, and so we're not gonna go for the grant. Y'all are paying for it with the city budget. That's
I'm
what-
sorry, for what now?
The grant for COVID.
Well, if you need additional funds to support that, then that's completely separate, that's not in the motion.
Yeah,
Well, I can't do it if we don't put it in these. I
it's
can't.
not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
No, they have their own existing budgets now.
Okay,
And
so
they
they're
have to
gonna
stay
use
within
their
those budgets.
existing budgets for additional money.
No, not for additional money.
Additional money in their budget.
If they
They need
needed
it.
additional money, they would have to come back to us, but if they have money in their budgets, they don't need to come. to
Okay,
us.
and I can't do the grants then because
Sure.
the thing's over the 12th, which is
I
today.
think Leroy already applied for the grant. He told
Yeah.
us.
14,000.
Yes, he already applied for
But
it.
I
We need to
have
apply
to-
for everything we can.
No, we haven't.
We need to apply
Oh,
for
yeah,
everything we
yeah.
can.
Yeah, we did get 14,000, but Leroy can't find it. I don't think he got it specifically.
He's applied for it.
No, we got it. We already have it.
I think, yeah, and that, we don't have to discuss it now, but I know that that's on his radar.
Okay.
Yeah, and a COVID budget is not on the agenda.
14,000.
Yeah, it's on his radar.
We got a motion and a second.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
just the phases to open.
All right, so this is purely, I'm not gonna get involved, it's got nothing to do with the state emergency management, this is
Correct.
city. Okay. All
We just
right,
need a
so
vote.
we have a motion, do I have a second?
Mr. Carey.
Mr.
Mr.
Carey,
Carey,
second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank y'all.
Okay, so who's gonna be our
Thank y'all.
spokesperson? Who's gonna be our spokesperson when we advertise this, because we really need to tell the community.
I would assume it would be
Leroy?
Leroy, yes,
Why
ma'am.
don't
Because we'll
we
have
put
it.
it in our utility bill?
I think, and these are things that I think that we can continue to work through, and
Yes.
great ideas here. I think that we put it like a high level in the utility bill, each one of our,
The dates.
and each one of our facilities, if people are trying to go to them,
We don't do
let's,
enough of that anymore.
yeah.
No, I agree, we're gonna restart, that was something we put on the next agenda.
And I think we put it out, we advertise it where we can, we put it in city, we put it all the city facilities to
We
inform
guys
people.
do that.
Yes, I can put it on the website banner about the reopening phases,
Perfect.
we can make sure it's on there. The city does have a Facebook page, our library has a Facebook page. Patrons are already asking, when they do check out, they get a little receipt, and we could say, we're on phase one, this is what we're doing.
Alright.
So, getting the message out, it's.
So staff is gonna coordinate it all.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we can help out with that, yeah.
And Devin has a Facebook page as well.
Well, I get complaints from older people that don't do.
Don't have
internet.
Facebook.
Yeah, that's why I asked about the utility bill stuff.
Okay.
We need to
No,
try
we
to
need-
send a lot of that out too.
We do, because, and I'm
I
glad
mean,
you
not
mentioned
just
that.
this topic.
No.
Anything.
Any
Yeah.
crucial items, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good way to get to all those
Yeah.
things.
We used to have
A newsletter?
Newsletter that was in
Yeah.
the bill, but then we ceased it, and, I guess maybe if y'all wanna do it quarterly again, we can go
We might
ahead.
want to go, we
Yeah.
might want to revisit that.
It's gonna be on the next agenda, because I got citizens who don't have access to the computer, they're
Yeah.
calling use the website, and they said they can, so, yeah.
And
Same go to the
on-
library.
Yeah, and on the library, we do have windows and doors, so we make sure we plaster everything there.
You have
so
it
they
all
can-
there?
Yeah, so it's, your books are due at this time, our phases are, we're not open until, so we make sure that is on the door, so if they come in, they can read that as well.
And can I ask, I'm not trying to boss everybody around or anything, but could I ask that we get an update so we know when you're gonna open and stuff like that exactly?
Oh, it is in the phase plan?
Each one is agreed.
Yes, we will, I'm sure Leroy will send out a notice to y'all.
Good.
To
I
let you
think that'd be
know.
awesome.
And even, say the day we open the doors,
Yeah.
y'all will definitely know ahead of time, so you can let people know.
We have grand reopenings.
Great point, Mayor.
And so this is also Castro Colony's, the museums too.
We would agree.
The visitor center will follow this.
Steinbeck House also.
Yes,
And
we're
then
following
that's-
this time back house and the bathrooms being
All
on.
right, good.
And I think Leroy made that one for all city openings, that one
We did.
little page, so that might be for Steinbach House as well.
It is, it is.
That's good.
So it's,
All right. And please forgive me for talking too much, but I can discuss, it's in the policy, and I'm a stickler for, I just want to make sure, I'm not trying to
We
direct.
know you meant well, but we're gonna put you on a time limit.
You can, but I just want to make sure you, not me, because I can't make the decision. I just want to make sure everybody's totally aware of it.
Well, thank y'all for asking questions too, because it makes a difference, because that way we know
Definitely.
too.
Definitely. Okay, can we go to the next one? Now I have to go by the agenda, not the
Number
actual
12.
item. Okay, not even more than the actual item. Presentation on draft ordinance on council policies and procedures. And this I made it, originally I wanted it an agenda item because I wasn't able to participate, and neither was Mr. Terry when you had the workshop because we were late. So what I really wanted is to be able to get new council and myself and possibly Mr. Terry, if you were interested, to be able to also comment. And so I took it upon myself. I made this list from the ordinances. It's not by any means the actual title. You don't have to use it. All they are catchphrases from the policy. And they're just things to think about because last year was, for me, a very difficult year because things were not in the council policy. However, this is not a policy. It would be an ordinance or a code.
No, it is a policy, but it's done by ordinance.
So it would be in Mooney Code.
Well, yes, there is a statute in there for the original one. And so this is an amending ordinance.
Okay.
So it's
amending.
already in an ordinance, but this will be an amending ordinance
All right.
for whatever y'all want to tweak or change.
Okay.
All right.
And again, I'm not thinking of me, this isn't Jolis, this is just the mayor, because we've had trouble with perceptions of prior administration, the administration prior to that, which is, it's normal in politics. And I just think it would make things better if we were more specific in this particular policy, because I did look at other cities, and they've got a lot more information in it in theirs than we do. So with your permission, I'd like to just give you these catchphrases that I have done. They're definitely not titled, but when you look at, Deborah, you want to explain what we have to look at?
Oh, this right here this was done by Habib, our city attorney, before he left. Cynthia has since looked at this and tweaked it a little bit. And in your iPads, I'm sorry, the color shading did not come off. It was too light, I guess, and when it picked it up. But it does show the strikeouts of what, or additions, I guess you'd say, the strikeouts in there. The strikeouts, part of it was from the city, or the local legislature changes. And so originally when we started out with this, we were just changing a few things. The time, I believe he, she was going to be put in there instead of a he as the mayor. And so then when Habib went back and looked at it, he, in a different format, also realized that there were some things that had changed in the legislature. And that's why he rewrote this, I say. A lot of it's still in there, it's just written differently, but it's quite lengthy. But on a lot of this, this is y'all's ordinance. This was in effect when I got here. I don't know who originally started.
You had, 2009 is the current, but I do know that Mayor Lee rescinded the financial portion. I've got the resolution, but that wasn't an ordinance.
We, in this, the council, made a resolution or ordinance, whichever it is, what I wrote on the original one y'all may have in your packet. That was taken out because of the financial policies and procedures that the council follows. And so that was removed because it wasn't necessarily needed in there.
I put that on this. You've got the resolution.
There's one other one that has been changed too, and I can't tell you the ordinance, but there was a small ordinance change, an additional ordinance that amended this on saying that if anyone requested an agenda, which was already being, the procedure was already being done, if they requested an agenda from me, I'm to give them an agenda. But they just went ahead and put it in writing. But that's the only things that have been changed, except with the exception what y'all are gonna look at now, and the legislative changes.
Very good, thank you. And again, please bear with me, and I will shut up, but I went through.
Mayor, can I, a question? I guess the agenda item said it was just going to be presented to us.
Yeah,
We
and
didn't
this
say
is
we were
just,
gonna-
I'm just giving you,
Right, but it didn't say we were going to
catchphrases.
discuss it or have
Well,
action.
my item was that, actually.
Well, by the agenda, it just simply said that
Yeah.
that Deborah was going to
So
present it.
we've got, how many drafts?
We have one, this one right
So
here is the
this
latest.
draft is the result of their change to the current 2009 ordinance.
And I understand that, and she
And-
presented it to us because at a future meeting, we were going to discuss it.
Because it's gonna be lengthy.
Right,
And-
and all I did was I itemized it just to make it easier for you guys to understand what the ordinance was.
Oh,
This is
and I
an-
appreciate that, but,
It's nothing.
and maybe I'm wrong here, but I didn't think we were going to be discussing.
I'm
these.
not, this isn't
Okay.
discussing, I just,
Okay.
all I'm doing is offering some help that I outlined the policy for you.
No,
That's
and I
all.
appreciate it, and I plan to read it, and
And-
because it's the first time I've seen your document.
These are the books that are no longer available for council, you have to download them. But these books we used to get, and they give you the council handbook, how you get money, and revenue manual, and you can get them all at TML, and they have the updated versions, and that will help you also with that. This is just advice, I'm not pushing
Appreciate that.
anybody or anything, but that's all I wanted to say. So, nothing to that. Appointment of board liaisons. And I will not, I think you guys can decide. I'm not going to make any decisions that will be
Can we raise our hand right now?
troublesome. Yes,
And just let me write it down.
I'll take the HLC.
all right.
I'd like to take the airport just for a change.
That's a good term.
I'll do
Mr. Gary? I'm just going, I'm sorry. I was going,
Go ahead.
they started.
Unless somebody else wants to fight for it.
I like Parks and Rec.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Sounds like we're playing Monopoly.
Parks
I
and Rec,
wanted
200.
Parks and Rec. That's a good, she'll do well. Councilman Carey?
I have been, before I was on planning and zoning, I'll continue with planning and zoning. There's also the zoning board of adjustments. If you want.
Whichever, you're great on either one, so I'm good with whatever.
I would be happy to be the liaison to planning and zoning.
Okay?
We have the
Board of
library
Adjustments.
and we have the zoning board of
The
adjustments.
library's over the short stick.
Oh,
Well, the zoning board of adjustments meeting, one of the things, because we have an extra board, kind of, they only meet periodically when there is a variance request,
so why don't I take the library then, because they meet all the time, and then we can figure out who goes to the zoning board of adjustment. And
I can add zoning board of adjustments to the P&Z.
they both fit perfectly together? Yeah, that works.
Does that cover
He gets
all?
double duty and I get fun.
And you guys can, these boards, the only ones we're required to have is planning and zoning and the board of adjustments. So if you want other boards, so you can have something else, you can certainly put that on an item, and we can have other liaisons.
As long as three of us don't show up, too, this can go to.
There you go.
All right.
Well, thank y'all. We'll
So
let
with
the board know.
Now we have updates from city staff on tree trimming. This was, I asked for this and I wasn't directing, I just asked for it because citizens asked me why Public Works is driving around cutting their trees off over the streets. And I said, you're lucky because I had to pay for mine, but
Trimming
it's
trees
not
off
the
of what?
electric. Huh?
Trimming trees off of what?
It's not the electric tree trimming that we went out for the RFP, but they're trimming trees over the streets or something.
Yes, and the reason they're trimming some of those trees are because they're either overhanging onto the right of way or blocking some of the stop signs or some of the signs. So and even the trees that are a certain height. Mr. Cox was here talking about his trucks when they run over.
Oh, yeah.
They hit them branches.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've cut our trees. in the city. I mean, the canopy is pretty, I like the canopy, but at the same time, it's also damaging and
You gotta raise it up.
yeah, yes.
And so the complaints reply is, that's part of the city and you're lucky. Because you'd have to pay a lot of money to get someone else to cut them. All right.
You gotta also remember too, at some point, we're gonna have school buses running up and down streets again too. So,
So y'all are good at that.
Yeah. And then, I suppose, like you just mentioned, the electric RFP that's coming out, we do have a lot of trees that are touching, branches that are touching the electric lines, and some of them are going over. And that's one that we have back here that fell over one of the electric lines.
Was that was that other one that was old, didn't it? Was that the one?
on
too?
Ovina?
Yeah.
Oh, no, one behind this.
Oh,
That caused
right
the
here.
fire?
Few weeks ago.
But that would be separate, and that's gonna be,
Yeah, that's separate.
because we have to amend the budget, because you said it's gonna be about 100,000.
That one, no, we only had six.
We amended for 67,
Right.
and we're probably gonna need more.
Oh, yes.
But that's electric, so that's completely
Yes.
separate.
We're gonna have that for a few more years before we can catch up.
John, a few weeks ago, the wind split a hackberry tree and a Augusta in my yard. And I had a crew out this last weekend to clear those out, and didn't know that my neighbor, the power pole, this Augusta, there's about a 12-foot stretch between the transformer and the other end. Two phases coming down, and the trees were all into it. And fortunately, I hired pros, because they got in and out of there without getting anywhere close to the wires.
Wow.
And I was really worried that, if they're rattling around, those are gonna touch each other. It's a stretch of 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah, that's
And,
scary.
Everything on that wire is some electrical tape.
Yeah,
So I
there's
can't
a lot of
believe they
scary
put
parts.
that weatherhead down, 12 feet below the transformer. There it is.
Wow.
And those guys working at this heat, too.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, and it goes back to what we talked about with they're trimming and they're taking them back to the yard, or even the other site that we have in front of the cemetery. We don't have no room at the yards.
Yeah, and that was another thing they asked me about, but I'm glad you mentioned it. So.
All of my cuttings went to some of my
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, go for it. I'll go. I don't need to. Question?
Not enough for one day.
All good? Thank you, John.
Is that it?
The other one was mine because of citizen complaints. I included it on a note, but I didn't give it out to you. I've had several people come to me that during the last power outage, they were unable to get through public works. It was always busy. However, after discussing with Deborah, she said maybe they were using the city phone line, which is on an IP, and will go down if the power's out. So that would be another, as Governor meant to put on the newsletter. But would you like to explain what we're dealing with right now? The public works is completely different from City Hall.
Correct. Their phone system is totally different than ours. I'm not sure if I'm not sure what you call yours. When we originally received this phone system, the council approved it. It's probably about 6 years old, I'm guessing. Mr. Cherry was still on council, so I'm trying to give you a date. But they decided that that would be the new, it took us 20 years to get a new phone system. And the IP was the way to go. Well, unfortunately, when we have outages on our electrical or internet, it's run by the internet, it knocks our phones down. Now, Public Works has the advantage to where theirs is the, I don't know what y'all have. It's not the IP phone, so they can still answer the phone.
So basically, you have digital,
right,
and they have analog. We
And
went
it
through
works-
this in
it works.
hospitals.
So they have to answer for us. I know in the middle of this, I know Mayor was talking about the citizens having issues trying to reach someone when their power went out. The only problem with that is, of course, part of it could be that they called City Hall, and if it's after hours, it does not forward to them. Their phones, though, do forward to the men that are on duty. And if they're, and in the past, this is the same thing. Once they are called out, they can't answer the phone because they are working.
Yeah.
And so, and everybody starts calling. I have a husband that's a retired lineman, and everybody calls. And so, they want to make sure.
12:30 a.m.?
Or more. Yes, I've lived it
What's
6
he back?
years. But they just want to make sure everybody knows they are out of electricity. So in the middle of all this, we were talking about, at one point, a previous staffer wanted to look at answering services. Now, this option could help, but that same service, you still only have 2 people on duty. And you would have to look at the cost, of course, during budget. And if they were providing that service, they would invariably, people would be calling them, and of course, they would dispatch them out. But you would look at the cost per se, and if it would help or not.
Yeah, it's just an answering service. All they can do is turn around and dial the number that we are.
They would page them out, you know, and sometimes, you know, a lot of people sometimes call after hours and just want to ask about things. And that's not necessarily what it's for.
Well, and you could also remember that some of these folks are elderly, probably doing the calling, and they want somebody to answer the phone. And I know that's a difficult situation, but is there somebody on call 24/7?
Yes.
There is?
But what y'all are talking about is something that I'd like to start now. After this past storm is a good indication as to what we need to do. And one of the costs that I found was $99 a month. And for a volume of 70 calls for every day. So then I'm sorry, a month. And this is for after hours. Once we transfer the phone calls when we leave for the day, it goes to that answering service, and they will call our number one, and if they don't answer, they'll call number 2, and then they'll go down the list. However we want to set it. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
They're going to call till somebody answers the phone.
Yes, correct. And to your point, I agree with what you're saying. Somebody they want to answer to somebody. They want to talk to somebody live.
They just want somebody to hear them.
And then what Deborah mentioned is there's a safety feature with those guys they're up on a pole or they're in a trench.
I can understand that too.
We get calls and calls and calls, and they don't want to.
I can understand that too. You can't get nothing done if you're talking on the phone.
So I think it's something that we need to
look into.
Yeah, I think we can spread it out amongst all departments, which is not very much money.
So, John, we could make it a budget, probably in the budget talk.
We could.
No, I mean, we could, but I'm thinking we could do it now. Spread it out.
So
it would be in your budget to do that right now, not wait.
Especially if we can put it out amongst all the.
Yeah, divide it amongst all the departments.
An agenda item or?
We could, because I mean, it's up to you if you want that service, or there was 2 others that we had looked into previously that did several different things. They do it by the month also, and it goes by the calls, however many calls you have. That was 69 calls.
Agenda item?
So.
I should, okay.
Please.
I guess a question, it sounds like these are not very expensive and you all are going to be looking at you need to look at all these different services, but it may be within your existing budgets now.
That's kind of what I was going at.
And you don't need to bring it to council.
But I would like citizens to know, the reason I even brought this up was I want citizens to know that we do care and we do understand, as you said. They need somebody to answer the phone because it's pretty awful not to have power if you're elderly.
Right.
And I know a lot of them said they used that machine.
Oh, CPAP?
CPAP. And so they didn't know power was out and they couldn't use their machines and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. And the other thing we want to, let the citizens know is to register for the iInfo. If they're not registered for the iInfo, is to get registered.
No computer.
And that's for.
If there's no power.
Exactly.
Well, we have one through the police department.
If there's no power.
Electricity's out.
Is that the one through the police?
Yes.
Comes through your phone.
But his phone wasn't dead.
We got Medina County IFO.
Oh, no, but he called me on his cell phone, that's right.
So, Mayor, could we, and this is your item, so I'm just making a
No,
recommendation.
it's your item. I just wanted to present it because the citizens are concerned.
Yeah, can we give,
You have to ask Deborah.
could we give staff, I guess,
You could direct us
direction to see if it fits within your existing budget, and if it does, then we encourage you to implement something like that
And we
for the
could come
benefit of the
back
citizens.
if it's a contract type thing. I don't know if we need to.
Then bring it back, and if it needs to come back to council,
If
then.
it's a certain amount.
Right.
You could just direct staff to look into it, yes.
Does that work for you?
Go get three bids. Treat it like the military. You go out for 3 bids, bring it back, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She knows the rules. So
Yeah, you can just direct us to look into the
I do it.
item. Or council,
Okay,
the staff,
but we're not voting.
the staff knows that y'all have directed us to go back and look at the information and make.
And recently, we just started up with Facebook for Public Works.
Yeah, I saw that, nice.
I don't have Facebook, but I think I do now.
You're obligated.
Everybody's friend you.
Mr. Beck wasn't upset that he was out of electricity from 8 PM to,
He was too.
no.
Oh.
He wasn't upset of the fact that he was out of electricity from 8 PM to, when he called me at 12:30, I thought, they're probably having trouble sleeping, no AC. Oh, no, we got a good breeze, but I got all this meat in the freezer. My deer sausage. He said, oh my God.
Those are good priorities.
If you don't open it up for 2 days, it's never gonna thaw, yeah. Just gather. Anyway, but bless his heart, they were out till 3 AM.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were out a long time, so,
Yeah.
Because John does get in touch with me when these things happen.
yeah,
But we did find out at 3 with CPS was the issue, so.
yeah. So it worked out, but that's a long time to be without electricity.
All right, so we're good on that. We have it as staff has been directed to
Go back and look at the.
Do some research.
and come back. Then we'll work with John. Okay. So there's no action on that, except we directed them, and now we're going to do discussion on future agenda items. Councilwoman Martinez?
Nothing right now, because we've got our first budget meeting next Wednesday, so
Yes.
I'm focusing on that was on the horizon.
Okay, and I'll just go by seated.
Mr.
Councilman King?
Nothing, because you mentioned you're going to put on the future agenda item,
See, if Arnie's okay, we're going to do the CAEBC
Well, there's-
chamber.
right, but I thought there was something, that was at the
There
newsletter or
was.
something in the, but anyway,
There was.
I don't
what was
have
it?
anything.
Newsletter?
The
newsletter.
Oh,
utility bill.
newsletter.
That's what you're going to put on the agenda, and I agree with that.
Let's hear
And I guess the agenda item would be is the city staff to update us on re-implementing the
Oh,
newsletter in the utility bills.
Nothing this time, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Budget.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd ask for, I'd like the idea of going over to CABC, the Go Medina, the Chamber, but I think that we should invite them to
Yeah,
come and
that's
present
what
on
we
that.
were discussing,
Yeah.
yeah.
As long as they're coming and presenting, I think that's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. Very good. All right, and again, please, I apologize if I overstepped.
I apologize. And I normally don't ask for y'all to put something on, but it was a question today because of the utility bills. We have not
Oh, wow.
implemented, of course, cutoffs.
Yes,
And y'all may want to revisit that
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
about whether or not there's going
To
to be.
cut or not cut?
Well,
The
late
adjustments.
fees and that type of thing, because there's several, they said it's very large. And so that may be definitely a agenda item y'all may want to revisit.
Could we do that?
At the next meeting. And-
All right, so we're going to add, revisit the utility adjustment
and
and the COVID pandemic adjustment to not cut off. That was an
I think so.
amendment.
That was one of your first, I believe,
Yeah.
declarations. The council made, I think, on the first order, when y'all first set it up, so, yeah.
So that's gone away, so we need to revisit it to see if we need to bring it back or not bring it
Well,
back.
no, I believe the staff will bring back some information for y'all to make a decision on whether or not you're going to allow, like I said, adjustments or how we're gonna handle this, because some of them are quite large, they said. So it's gonna, and that way we can get in touch with them and let them know.
Yeah, I could talk to Leroy, we'll get Leroy to give us that data. Okay.
We can get the details.
All right, guys, we're moving forward, and again, I want to move forward. I think this is an excellent meeting. I know I think we'll go off subject, so. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd second.
All in favor?
Aye.
7:23, is that what you have? This is 7:23.
Thank you, these are the ones that you all sewed up yourselves?
Yes. put on the agenda, Chief will explain his roles, and I can explain my role.
You're taking donations for these, I would assume.
Oh, this is how I'm doing this.
Isn't that great? Thank you.
They give us corrections and around there, and right now we have like $150. They give it to us, so we give it to the specific town. The pharmacies in town.
That's awesome.
He does that all of us.
I'm gonna go see.
You need to advertise that. You need to tell
I'm gonna see.
It's one way to hurry in the community. As long as